talk about it.
Hey. Okay. So, random middle of the week, late
Be my
stream with
Valentine.
like zero warning. Yeah, technically, for the US, we're still in Valentine's here, which is kind of fitting. I guess my internet YouTube career kind of started with seeing OC and AF on a Valentine's Day debate. That kind of inspired me to know I need to actually make a video. So, quite fitting that we should actually be here to talk about this tonight.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you for joining me, Charles. This is actually kind of amazing. So yeah, I was nearly on my deathbed. I'm going to call it my near deathbed. I was sick as hell, but I wanted to show this video that I kind of put together of a bunch of people reacting to Dave Chapelle and saying that he is no longer funny. And I really kind of wanted to get your reaction from it. So even though I was like sick as hell, you went ahead and watched that torturous video that I put together. And I appreciate it, man. I got a lot out of just watching your reaction to it. But I had some questions, and I think you let him get away with a couple of things on there. So I kind of wanted to, see your opinion on this,
Okay.
and see if maybe I'm being too harsh and giving them an out, or if maybe you'll see what I'm talking about on this. I'm not 100% certain, but cool. Just double checking that everything's working. It looks like it is. I will get back to actually speaking now. My short-term memory ran out there. But no, awesome. So I guess let me ask you the big question after watching that. So they all said Dave Chapelle is not funny anymore. Do you think they're right?
No.
All right, fair enough.
First of all, it's no different. Like if you're saying he's not funny anymore, then you're saying like the Clayton Bigsby character that he created that is just speaks to society so perfectly. You're saying that was funny, and that was offensive to Klansmen. I don't know, like who is that offensive to? Like he's always pushed
Well, that's the
down.
thing. He was punching down then. No, like right now he's punching down. Then he was punching up because the
Sure.
Clayton Bigsby character or the white supremacist would have been just so much in power. But
Yeah, it's
yeah,
it's obscene. It's as somebody who's on the other side of the stage, it's like, no, he's not funny anymore. You've just gotten really sensitive. Like there's like this Dunning-Kruger effect. And I hate to do this, but 2016, we had politicians who started doing like stand-up. I mean, Ted Cruz is opening his political rallies with my pronouns are kiss my ass or whatever the hell his nonsense is. Like, so there's this thing where, yeah, because the scale has shifted in a certain direction, we're taking people humorously that we shouldn't, and we're taking people seriously that we absolutely shouldn't. So like it something's gone horribly wrong with taking people at satire and being facetious and not taking people seriously when they say something absurd and funny and not thinking about the words that are being said, just taking everything at face value. And that's really dangerous. It's really dangerous in both ways, because you're going to have like really neutered comedy. And there's a reason that Dave Chapelle gets 20 something million and Gervais gets dozens of millions, and the people that you're complaining about are getting Netflix specials, while the people who are, staying within the I don't know, the rubber boundaries that you've all set up aren't really, getting any traction. It's because, yes, they're safe, but are they funny? No. And
a good question.
and comedy, we've lost track of what the term sense of humor is. And it's not, are they funny? It's, do you have a sense of if somebody's being humorous? it's not about, this person's no longer has a sense of humor. That's insane, unless, of course, they've lost their mind. Uh, to think that certain people are no longer funny, but, they're selling arenas out and they're, you know, I mean, it's hard to get into it because, like, I'm emotionally invested in so much of it, but,
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to be.
like, there's been so much that, like, people have adapted to it. I mean, you've had, like, Eddie Murphy come out and say that, "Yeah, I regret the things that I've said in the past," and it's like, it's a product of its time. Um, is it terrible by today's standards? Yes, of course it is, but, I mean, you go back 7 years, and there's things that we were doing and saying that are terrible by today's standards, but we didn't, it's not like we were purposely trying to hurt people. It's just not
Yeah, I
thinking
mean,
constructively is so frustrating, especially when these people aren't comedians.
yeah, and that's and we'll get into some of that as we go along. They did seem to say some rules that are out there for comedy. Well,
Oh,
I guess, we're kind of talking about it now, but I don't know. I kind of mentioned it before, but a lot of them have said kind of the purpose of comedy is to punch up and you can't punch down.
I can't stand that.
Um,
I really can't stand that argument. I really can't. It's a case by case basis.
yeah, it feels like, for sure that can be a way to go, and you can speak truth to power with comedy for sure, but I don't know, does it have to be? And I guess my second part to that is, does comedy have to be rooted in truth?
No, no. I mean, it seems like it hits harder if it does, but, it seems
Mm.
like we can't keep track of satire if there's some truth placed in there. So I don't know. Maybe we're not mature enough to handle truth laced into comedy. It's insane. I mean, Jon Stewart just got apparently he got railed for making fun of both presidential candidates. So, like, what's going on? They're both old. Like, what? He's just
Well,
talking about
it
that.
that's gonna kinda come to, one of the questions that I have at the end. I guess I don't wanna get too far
Okay.
ahead of myself. I do have this little video thing that I'd like you to kinda watch again with me. But, I guess my other question before we get into this, um, so I'm assuming I know your answer to this, but, is comedy art?
Sure. Of course.
Okay. I mean, I would definitely say so too.
Yeah.
And then, is it subjective?
Yes. Yes. All art is subjective.
Okay. Uh, so then the final question, I know these are kind of stupid questions,
No,
very
no, not at all.
simple,
I
but,
mean, I think people need to hear it. Objectively
are
not
there
funny.
rules?
I love that statement. Objectively not
Yeah.
funny. Oh,
So that's what I was gonna wonder, and it kinda comes with those, statements of, like, those objectively not funny.
yeah.
This is, objectively funny. Um, I don't know. Do you think there are rules to comedy?
There are, like there are shortcuts. There are, like,
Hmm,
rules, yes, but, you know, boundaries constantly get pushed. Like, there's certain things like the rule of threes, which is it's in, like, every art form, um, that,
true, Vivid.
sentence, punchline. Uh,
Mm,
so yeah, to a degree, but rules are made to be
mm,
broken. I mean, if you do it colorfully enough, sure. And again, the 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 goal in comedy is to make people laugh. Um, and if you have a decent enough sense of humor and you're breaking the rules, again, sense of humor. If you could read that the
yeah.
entire room is laughing, you have a good sense of humor. Whether or not you're breaking the rules, if they're all laughing, then you're doing something right.
I couldn't agree more, man. I'm glad to, yeah, kinda hear that that's where you fall down on it. Um, okay, so the last thing I'll ask, and then we'll kinda get into this, but, In your reaction, you mentioned that there's this new type of Avant Guard Netflix special. Could you kind of elaborate, like, what exactly would be the Avant Garde one? I think I have an idea, but I could be incorrect.
Well, it's this, you know, falling within these rubber bumpers, and it's less comedy and more just being safe, quote unquote. And
Mhm.
I don't know if I've recognized punchlines per se in these avant-garde stand-up specials. And yeah, if it's funny to people, yeah, I would be hypocritical if I said it, it's not stand-up comedy. But um if you're going to present it as stand-up comedy, there's gotta be laughter. There's gotta be jokes.
You'd think so. I don't know. So yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. Like, was the avant-gardeness referring to some of these specials that don't really have like a ton of jokes, or would you consider like the Dave Chapelle ones to be avant-garde, even though
No,
they're
no,
pretty
Dave
mainstream?
Chappelle is
I
pretty.
suppose. Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about, who we talked about, when you last had me on to discuss
Like the
comedy.
Hannah Gatsby types
Hannah
or
Gatsby
something like that.
and what's his face from, Daily Show, when
Oh,
he's just
Hassan Minaj.
Hassan Minhaj is
Yeah.
telling stories. It's what do you want there alright, so going back to rules, there's this thing that they teach you in comedy. It's laughs per minute or laughs per second in some cases, depending on how short your stage time is. Um, you know, that's something that we start off and are, like, judging ourselves on, and, clubs
Mhm.
book us based on, how many laughs per minute we're getting in our act. Um, these avant-garde specials aren't really loaded with too much LPM, and it's really kind of horrifying. Like, why is Netflix paying for this? Why am I paying for this technically?
I mean, there's some clapping going on. Like, there's some
Yeah, what
at
did you
least
call it?
golf claps
Clapter?
going on in there. Yeah, yeah, I think, it's been kinda commonly referred to as clapter, but you're right. I don't hear, like, big laughs or anything like that. Like,
And there's no
even with, like, the
punchline.
traditional comedy special.
Like
Yeah.
like, if you're going to do the
Yes.
storytelling thing, like the Eddie Murphy, um, the George Carlin, Richard Pryor taking us on a journey, with a quote unquote story, you better hit hard at the end. Like, what? And there's none of
For
that.
sure. And that was one of the points that, Ty Rivera kinda brought up at the end of that video. I was really happy that I stumbled across kinda
Oh,
his
yeah.
response to the it wasn't specifically that, but, kind of people saying that Chappelle isn't funny.
Yeah.
'Cause, yeah, he kinda brought up the whole, like, if you're going to do the storytelling route where it's not as many laughs per minute, that
Mhm.
punchline had better pay off,
Yeah.
and, he's right. Like, and that was what kinda really turned me off to the Hassan Minhaj thing. Like, just I don't know, there was no real punchline at the end. It was just like, "Okay, and my wife's pregnant again, guys.
Yeah.
Clap for me."
Yeah.
I don't know, it did not feel like, this dude was telling jokes or had any sort of, like, actual big pop at the end. It just was
Yeah.
clapping.
He
So,
he
I
did.
I had a feeling that that's what you were referring to when you said the avant-garde ones, but I just wanted to make sure that you weren't specifically referring to, like, Chappelle. I was gonna say, "Really? Avant-garde?" I would have thought he was, like, as
No.
mainstream as it gets,
No,
but
yeah,
maybe I'm wrong.
so you talked about the, Hasan Minhaj punchline. He did the stand-up equivalent of, like, asking for birthday wishes on Facebook. Like, he did that for a punchline, and it's just like, "Oh, your wife is pregnant. Wow, you took us on that journey to tell us something true. Oh,
Yeah.
this is so heartfelt.
Yes. So heartfelt, and
I
it felt real.
I came
Um,
here to see a
you know?
comedy show, and I'm now clapping for you having sex with your wife. Congratulations, sir." Like, what are we doing?
Okay. Well, I'm glad that kinda cleared it up. I do have a couple more questions, but, Yeah, I think we can kind of get into this. And again, this might be me being pedantic and totally nitpicking these, but I think you let them get away with a couple of
Okay.
things. So I just kind of want to point it out.
I'm
And
glad that
sorry, there will be a little sorry, please go right ahead. You're
no, no,
glad?
I'm glad that if we do disagree that, there's respect regardless of if that is the case. So I'm happy to be here.
Well, it might just be me being a dick, but we'll see. But sorry, there is a bit of reacception going on here.
Okay.
Unfortunately, there will be a second of you on the screen or
Ooh,
a second you on the
I love
screen.
me some
So,
me.
you know, good times. We all do. That's why I invited you. I needed more Charles here. But yeah, I guess let's get going with this.
Comedy should be off limits, uncancelable. Well, that's a little too much. Um, it is freedom of speech. It is protected. But uncancelable is silly. Screaming fire in a movie theater is illegal for a reason.
So, maybe I'm a little bit more of an absolutist or
Mhm.
whatever, and I could totally get that. And I have another question for you just at the end of this clip. But I don't know. Are you familiar with like the shouting, like the reason why shouting fire in a crowded theater or whatever is known as being illegal or whatever?
Um, because it's doesn't it put people in harm's way that don't necessarily need to be?
That's definitely kind of yes. So that's kind of the justification for it. But yeah, I think I'll let. So this is a clip from the Powley Center. They had a whole bunch of comedians kind of get together, and they asked them kind of as a group like a bunch of these questions,
Okay.
and free speech kind of came up. And comedian Dave Smith, who I really like this dude, but he kind of had an answer on this, and it's kind of stuck with me. But
Okay.
sadly, there's a weird history to that shouting fire in a crowded theater
Oh,
thing.
no.
No, I get what you're saying. If we had free speech, people could say terrible things about me, and maybe other people would believe them. However, as like the founders said, right? Was it Jefferson or one of the others? I would rather deal with the problems of too much liberty rather than the issues of too little of it. Okay, so you're right, but in the reality of hold on, let me just say this.
Yep.
In actual empirical historical evidence, what happens when you ban speech, right? You guys all know the you can't yell fire
Right.
in a crowded theater, right?
For the greater
well, okay,
good.
fire, 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 fire. I just did it. So what? Do you know where that Supreme Court decision came from? It was against World War I anti-war protesters who were handing out anti-war pamphlets, and they used it to lock them up in jail. So you can actually, to me, I'm more concerned with the danger of some authority saying no, that's too far on the free speech, and it usually isn't like you were saying just slander or libel. It's usually something that's like a threat to the establishment, a threat to the power structure. So I'd rather just have somebody be able to say, hey, Dave's a then I can go, what evidence do you have of that?
Right.
And they have nothing.
I just want to
Oh.
say,
I know the word now.
So I know it's kind of pedantic or whatever, but I don't know. It's technically not illegal. Like if you cause like a riot, you cause a panic, a public disturbance. Like yes, those are all things. And if you're doing that in a private establishment, they can definitely kick you out. But so I kind of learned it when I was in a band. We had this one singer guy who just wanted to be like kind of as offensive or whatever as possible.
Mhm.
So he just started yelling like fire in the crowded room. And we all kind of thought that, we were going to get in trouble or whatever. That's when we kind of learned like that's kind of just a saying. It was a way that they were able to kind of get something over on these people who were passing out flyers against World War One.
Hmm.
So I don't know. It has kind of held because it was in the guy's example. I can't remember which Supreme Court justice, but he did put it in his example of it. But he didn't mean it like necessarily as like literally the action of yelling fire. Of course, if there is actually a fire, that would be fine. It's just kind of, I don't know. It's kind of a misnomer. Like he did use it as an example,
Mhm.
but it was used literally to like stop free speech in a weird way. But technically, it's not illegal to just yell fire in a crowded theater. Just if you create a riot, you are going to be charged for that.
Yeah. So, Kramer, quite infamously, Michael Richardson.
Yes, I'm actually working on a video, and I grabbed a whole bunch of clips of Kramer as well. Yes, sir. I am very familiar with it. There was actually a really cool video just a couple days ago that came out on Kramer.
Oh, really?
This one comedian kind of went through that whole incident. It was really fun to kind of relive it. It helped me with a future video I'm making.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That
sorry
was
for
probably close
derailing
to
the Kramer talk.
no. That what he did there was probably close to cancelable. There
I
wasn't
think
humor
for sure.
laced in anything that he
No,
was saying there. He was just being
it sucks.
racist.
That dude was in a low point in his yes, 100%. That dude was in a low point in his life. Like they had tried to do, I can't remember if it was just called the Michael Richards Show, but that failed. He tried a few different movies like Trial and Error, and there was another one that just bombed. He was really down on his luck. That's when he went into stand up, and he just happened to be I believe it's famously at the Laugh Factory, wasn't it?
Yes.
I
Yes,
can still
California's own.
see the thing behind him. Yeah, the logo there. But yeah,
They
that
weren't
dude did
producing
not
when
tell
he
one
laughed during
joke.
it.
Yeah, there was literally no joke in the entire thing. Not one part of it was funny.
No.
The guy was heckling him, telling him he wasn't funny, and he just kept doing this racist tirade.
Yeah. And just
And then
ranting.
the thing that makes it so much worse is his actual apology. He says, like, you know, I was just full of rage. I'm sorry. And it's like, what? So Patrice O'Neill, he actually had this amazing famous bit on Opie and Anthony, but they asked him about it. And he's like, I didn't think Cosmo was racist until I saw his apology. And, you know, he's got a point. Like, maybe he's doing some Andy Kaufman shit, but no, he wasn't. You can tell with his apology.
Yeah. Yeah. And
That is just a weird thing. And you're right. Like, technically, I would want to say that, you know, he has the right to say that shit.
Sure.
I think it's horrible, and I think he should be canceled, and people should not go and support him after that. But I don't think what he said is illegal. So I don't know. Maybe I'm an ass, and I'm too free on my speech.
Right. So I guess, yeah. So to break that statement,
Hey, Patrick. Awesome to see you, sir.
yeah. So uncancelable, I think, isn't. First of all, cancel is it's a you know it's rhetoric. It's not really. I mean, you get canceled, you're not getting booked, and you know, if anything, Chappelle and the like are proving that you can be cancelable and still have a career. I mean, Louis C.K. is back to doing a bunch of things. I mean, even those West Coast podcasters, D'Elia and Carlin are back.
Yep, they're pretty much back.
And that is that's interesting.
Hey, what's up, Dice?
Hi there, Dice. So that's
so then let me ask you kind of along those lines though. So those, well, I guess
they're not related.
Isn't, and I guess the Louis, D'Elia, and Callan are not based off of jokes. Sorry, the Chappelle one that you were talking about, like, okay, so Chappelle's was for jokes though. Like, if you already agreed that like jokes aren't, you know, they don't have to come from a place of truth, should you ever apologize for a joke?
You can apologize for if somebody interpreted it a certain way, but you could re-hammer home your intent. Vince brought it up before. It is about intent. But you know, Vince did bring up the fire reference, but intent with humor is the same thing. Like, yeah, I have on my channel quite a few times have said that. Yeah, if you tried, there's a reason I don't run for political office is because I've said everything horrible in my life over the course of time, and all you have to do is just scour, and you'll find enough. I'm not running away from that. It's things taken out of context. If somebody's hurt by it, a comedy show, you know, you just re-explain. Jim Jeffries has done a good job of this. I think I've spoken to you about this in private, that his most recent special, like he would front load anything that was a little modern day, quote unquote, heavy. he would say, "We are at a comedy show," and like that's hammering home. Listen, guys, I'm kidding. And you want to talk about rules? Charles doesn't run morals.
It's
No, I
true.
don't have any of those.
Quite a twist. No one expected it.
Yeah. Shit. What was I saying?
Sorry, I totally derailed us.
No,
I completely derailed myself as well. I totally forgot. Shit. So I guess
Short
yeah.
attention span theater. Shit.
It started with me asking, like, should you ever have to apologize for a joke? Like,
Jeffrey's saying,
oh, right.
We are
Sorry,
at a
you were just
comedy
talking about Jeffrey's front loading each one.
Yeah.
Yes.
And what they teach you is you shouldn't have to tell people at a comedy club or a comedy show that I'm kidding. They say the worst thing you can do after a bit is, just kidding. Yeah. The worst thing you can do as a comedian is let them know that, oh yeah, by the way, the reason I'm up here is to tell jokes. And it's just like, yeah, we know it's the laugh factory. We're producing laughs by the cardboard box load.
Bushel full? Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's redundant.
I don't know. Just kind of. So I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I think, and I'm not the original one to say this or anything like this. I think I've heard Patrice kind of echo this, and like almost any offensive character that offensive comedian, they would say that comedy shouldn't be off limits. That in order to sometimes find that edginess, that you have to actually walk up to the line. Sometimes you're going to go over it.
Yep.
So sometimes it's not going to be funny.
Yep.
Sometimes it's going to offend, but
and you find out.
you have to defend the attempt.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, that's the only way. So it is a live art form. Like, it's not like you can just practice in front of the mirror and know how it's going to go over. Like, it really does require an audience, unlike anything else. I don't know. It's just so interesting because it is, even the same joke in a different room can like actually go over quite well, or, turn everybody off, walk the room. So I don't know. It feels like I want to defend any attempt if there is actually comedy in it. But, where it differs for me is like, you mentioned the D'Elia thing, you mentioned the Carlin thing, you mentioned, sorry, I'm trying to, Louis.
Mhm.
Those weren't jokes. Like, I wouldn't defend any of that. But like Chapelle or like even a Dice character, like, yeah, that's offensive shit, but that's what he's going for.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I would want to defend that, just kind of like
Well,
Carlin did back in the day.
and the other thing is that what people don't realize is when you go to see a stand-up show on like a Tuesday night, you might be like on vacation or something in New York City or California or something, and like this is your big night. But more often than I would say 8 times out of 10, comics are working things out. They're working on their tight 10 or something. Because unless you're going to a specific show that is like Dave Chapelle live and in person for an hour and a half. Usually, if you're going to a comedy club, you're seeing like a myriad of comedians, maybe 10 to 15 comedians doing somewhere between 6 and 15 minutes, and it's just like this. It's too much. It's too much comedy, and people are working things out. And there's reasons why. They take people's cell phones away now. I know Rogan does it at his club, and
Almost every one of those clubs has those. They call them yonder bags, but yeah, they have little locks on them, and
Yeah.
you'll be kicked out. Actually, somebody was just kicked out of, I think, Matt Rife's show for actually smuggling their phone into it. So yeah, it seems to be kind of all over the place, from odd little tiny clubs to kind of big theaters now. So yeah, it just kind of becomes the norm. Like, okay, if we don't have this room to work out, then we're going to make it so that you can record it. I don't know. I get the need, but that does kind of suck.
it's sad. It's
But
unfortunate.
it's kind of fun. Like, that would have to suck, like being on stage and everyone just looking at their phones. Like, maybe this is like a good solution for a very tech addicted.
Maybe
I
it
don't know.
makes its way to
crowd.
music too. Yeah. It is.
Sure.
I mean, I remember shit, I'm old enough to remember like bootlegs of like concerts and things, and it was like so not cool. But today it's the polar opposite, where all you see is like a sea of phones, and it's like, wow, I guess they don't care anymore. It's really, really bizarre.
It's not about the quality. It's just proving you were there, I think. But, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong.
Look, in the front row, he spit on me.
All right. So I guess kind of going along the same pattern, I'll let you. I think you got like one more thing to say here, and then I think the rest of it is not focused on you.
Watch me cancel myself.
This is coming from a comedian. This is coming from somebody who's made a fair amount of money making people laugh and saying things that are, not the greatest thing as far as society is concerned. Having said that, everybody's too sensitive. People who are offended are too sensitive, and people who think that nothing is off limits. I think that's being too sensitive.
Oh, am I too sensitive? Huh? Tell me. Yeah. So I don't know. Like I get what you're saying. Like it does feel like literally like nothing is off limits. Like I think we're kind of using the colloquial term of like,
Easy for you to say.
everything should be up. But I mean, obviously if somebody is like literally just doing like hate speech or threatening a crime or trying to get people to riot,
Yeah.
I don't think that falls under that same umbrella. But I just fear if I don't know, if you do say like certain things are off limits, it would kind of prevent an entire, I don't know, a whole bunch of potential comedy out there. So I guess I had the question for you so you said comedy is free speech, but then you're kind of saying that people who said that everything is off limits or everything is acceptable or being too sensitive. So what would the limits be? Like, where would you draw that line as a comedian?
You'd have to find out. I mean, like it's again,
Fair enough.
my fallback case by case basis. Yeah, to use Michael
That makes
Richards,
sense.
he was on stage when he pointed and said the N-word and had no sort of
Quite a
humor
few
in his
times.
demeanor. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that is, I would say, off limits. You've got to have. I mean, I've shown you the bit where George Carlin talks about all the nasty things that people have said about other xenophobic things, and he made it into a joke. And whether or not you think the terms are offensive,
Didn't even notice that.
well, not exactly. I have the jacket.
Yeah, there's a lovely jacket on. But you're right. Like that Carlin bit is amazing. Yeah, come on, different lighting. This is evening lighting, or I guess early morning lighting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I agree with you. Like that bit is super offensive, but I don't know. Do you think he would be doing that bit today?
I don't
like
know.
Knowing Carlin, I could see Carlin doing it just because he's Carlin, but I can't see anybody else doing that same bit today. Like I just don't see that flying. Which I guess my question from that would be, I don't know. Do you think anything for comedy is off limits, or do you think if it's hit the correct way, it would be acceptable?
It's hard. It's hard to say that because, generally speaking, of course, there's probably things that are off limits, but until you like experience it, like I said, the Michael Richards situation, you don't find the line until, like you said, you've crossed it. But I would think that people would know that to just not point into the crowd and shout racial stereotypes without
You'd kind of think so. It
any.
was kind of a really poor history lesson. It wasn't like there was no jokes in it. There was nothing. It was just like this would have happened this many years ago.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was interesting. But again, he went into a rage apparently. So I don't know. I think that's the worst possible excuse for it. Perhaps, I was on sleeping medication or something. I don't know, like something other than just I was mad. So sorry.
Yeah.
Um,
We can say whatever we want, but people also can choose to not laugh and choose to not return to see you again. It is capitalism at its finest. If you're good, they'll come back. The crowd you draw has something to say.
Dice gets it. Yeah, I mean, like, come on, like chemical imbalance or something. Okay, so kind of along those lines. So you were saying that, like, what Jim Jeffries did, where he kind of like preloaded a joke, like,
We're at a
no,
comedy
this
show.
is, yeah, exactly. We're at a comedy show. We're gonna get silly or whatever. I can't remember exactly how he phrased it, like the second or third time. But if a comedian apologizes for a joke, does it like? I know I was asking you before, like, should you apologize? I feel like I got an answer for that, but if they do choose to apologize, does that then kind of put everything else in their set? Like, essentially, does it negate all of the actual joke in there if you're apologizing for it?
Mm,
Like, should you have to stick by it?
No, I mean, you can clarify that your intent is, as long as it's,
Mhm.
you know, nothing ridiculous, where it's a there's satire. It's a joke that's um processed and not your first time doing a bit. Like, if it's your first time doing a bit, there's like the stages of a joke are really fascinating, because you can't do it in front of your mirror and then just nail it. Like, you have to figure out where the laugh lines are, like how much shorter you should make a
Mhm.
sentence. Like, you only find that out in front of an audience. So,
One
um,
of my favorite comedians has this amazing series on YouTube. You can find a ton of his stuff, but he actually, so it's Mark Norman. If you look up his YouTube channel, you can see it. But he goes through like the like conception of a joke into like trying it, wording it differently. He does it multiple different times, but
mm,
like to see just how many like tweaks it takes to actually get it right, and to see like the crowd actually like booing and him not going, it's really bold to like put that up and show the entire process.
I've
But
done something like that
yeah,
before, where I've shown 3 different stages of a joke, but to be modern about it and cover it from inception, that's fascinating.
yeah, I thought it was really cool to like actually watch it play out and just how different it goes in front of different crowds, and it just kind of makes you wonder, like, would this joke have worked with a different wording just if it was this correct crowd? Like, is it just the crowd? Is it the night? Is it you? Like, is it just the way that you're on that night?
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
like,
but it was really fun to actually kind of watch him do that. He's done it a few different times. Yeah, I highly recommend checking out that dude's YouTube site.
I will,
But
and probably steal see, like, I've been trying to avoid stand-up recently, as I've been rewriting, so I'm like, do I wanna subconsciously take something in? Um,
well, and that dude, it's hard to not like just steal. I think I stole "Hey Hey" from him. Like, that's just how he opens up like every set, and then usually closes it with Kevin Hart. But yeah, that dude is awesome. Um, so not to like call out your chat specifically, you had a really cool dude in your chat. He's there a lot, but one of his comments at the very end kind of stuck out to me. He was saying that he has yet to hear somebody justify one of Chappelle's jokes. Should you ever have to justify a joke as a comedian? Like, you did mention you can explain the context or the intent, but isn't that justifying the joke? Like, would that take away from the actual comedy to have to be like, well, hey, here's what I meant, here's why I said it, as
yeah,
opposed to just being like, yeah, it's a joke.
I mean, other than, like Kaufman, I mean, like, it's that level where Kaufman was such an anti-comedian, as far as what a comedian
Yeah.
goes on stage and attempts to do. Um, you want I can't explain how close to orgasm getting a full room to laugh at something that you've created in your head, like, how incredible that feels as a performer, like, going out there trying to do something that most comedians have some sort of darkness about them, and they're trying to swing things in another direction to make up for that darkness. And um no comedian that I know of their intent is to hurt people. It's kind of like this humor prostitution, if you will. Like, all right, you paid me. I want you to come, and I will feel good about it. And let's go about our business. They don't. I again, other than Kaufman, who like purposely went out of his way to just like go against the grain.
Yeah.
I cannot think of a comedian going out of their way to hurt people. Like it's the antithesis of the word comedy. Nobody's intending to hurt people. So if you're clarifying and or apologizing, that should be the explanation.
Fair enough. I was just wondering, I've seen a couple of people like
Apologies for
really
my-
take hard stances that like comedy should never be justified or anything like that. Like a joke is a joke, and if we start justifying it, then that just it ends all credibility for all comedians. I was just wondering, you don't seem as hardline the stance on like the whole free speech and anything is everything's okay or nothing's okay type of deal. So fair enough. I respect your position.
It can't be, because like we have, I mean, especially if you're not really a name. I don't know if I brought this up before. When I was like, shit, I'm still nobody, but when I was coming up doing like guest spots, there was words that I could not say. And
Yeah.
some of those words, I apologize for dropping the orgasm C word. The C word that they don't like here and refer it as fanny is one of the big ones. And I had it for like one or two of my jokes, and I had to work around it. And that's the club that's paying me, clipping my bit. It really, a comedian should be able to adapt. Like if you're having a shit show, you should know, all right, this isn't working. Whether or not you drive, I mean, Bill Burr infamously, just
that
took his
Philly gig is just so amazing. man.
legendary.
Like it is infamous. Yeah, that thing is just amazing. I think Dice has it. You can always substitute sploosh.
Sploosh.
You're good.
I'll sploosh all over the audience, and likewise in return.
But yeah, that Burr one is just so legendary.
Yeah.
That's just like amazing, where he's just going at the crowd. They were heckling like legends like Dom
Herrera,
like
yeah.
right before him. Yeah, so it's like you can't let that stand. So yeah, he just took it out on a stadium full of people, and it is just legendary and amazing. And by like the 10th burn, everyone's on his side. They're like, yeah, come on, keep giving us more.
Yeah,
It's just, it doesn't quit. And he goes his whole time. Like I couldn't imagine being so on and just having that moment. Like that's amazing. I think that's lightning in a bottle right there.
halfway through, well, not even halfway through, like he tries doing regular jokes, and then he makes a point to say, I can't go back and talk about, I forget what the hell the line is, but he's like, what do you want me to talk about? Traffic or something? I forget what the hell the line is. And that got a laugh. And it's like, God, he's murdering the entire crowd right now. And
it's just so amazing.
The fact that he closes with, this doesn't change how I feel about you people, that is letting them all know, listen, we just had fun here. Like it's just so funny. And again, it's like a case by case basis. Like that situation, what are you going to do? Like they're not listening. So
yeah,
you can't do knock knock jokes while they're just booing over you. Like, try something else. Bill Burr is
and they're shouting down every comedian.
They're probably the platinum standard as far as I would concern right now. I think Bill Burr is the platinum standard for stand-up, because he just gives it. He gives it, and like he's like, yeah, you're both being stupid.
Yeah, I really dig a lot of his opinions.
Mm-hmm.
They're interesting and great observations. And I just kind of love his whole personality. But yeah, after that Philly, like, okay, so yeah, back in the day, like in Chappelle's show, my God, he had some amazing like bits on there. But I truly fell in love with him after that Philly thing.
Oh my God.
He let the crowd have it. That is just legendary. But yeah, that dude is also if he's not the GOAT, he's one of the GOATs.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But
He's the
yeah,
next best
man.
thing to Carlin we got right now, or AI Carlin.
Well, so I would like to talk to you about that too. There's been updates. We did get a new Carlin, and then it got sued out of existence. So
Ugh.
yeah, we got to talk about that. I think you might have opinions on computer comedy, but we'll see about that.
I don't know how I.
But I think this was my last like straight up objection to what you said, and that's just me being pedantic or
It's fine.
whatever.
It's fine.
But now I'm going to be more pedantic, but it's not towards you. I think you let them get away with a few things, so I think these first couple are just. I would have liked a little bit of call out.
It's
on this.
funny how suddenly everything's just black or white. There's no gray area, and that
Gray
shouldn't
space.
be the way it is. And
In the past, Dave
I
Chapelle
totally
has
forgot
come
that
under
was coming.
fire for his comments about transgender individuals, who have in turn rallied against the company that has produced his most recent comedy specials, Netflix. Despite being canceled by the woke mob, the company continues to pay him upwards of $20 million per special to say what no one is allowed to say these days. That trans people are gross, yucky, weird bullies who are weird and probably shouldn't stand up for themselves if they want people to be nice to them. Now, I did not grow up.
I hit mute instead of actually pausing it. My bad. So I understand that was like right at the beginning of this video, but I just thought that was letting her get away with like quite a bit too much. I think he definitely makes fun of the group, and he definitely makes fun of kind of the power they have. So I could maybe see the bullies thing. But I don't know. Did you think his point was that, trans people are yucky, gross, and probably shouldn't exist and are bullies? I think was essentially
No.
the 5 points that she made.
Shouldn't exist? No. Why would he hire a trans comedian as his opening act if he thought they shouldn't exist?
And I think it's me being a dick, because you do kind of point it out when she says it later about like the Barbie thing. Like, it's just a joke about like women are funny because of boobs and like you do point it out. Then it's like that's not what the joke was. I don't know. I think she keeps missing what the point of these jokes are. Like that is the way that she is interpreting these. I just think it's very much incorrect. Like
right.
it may be how it's affecting her though.
Yeah. If you're watching a stand-up special where they're speaking about something that you're like really heavily invested in, George Carlin would go right back to him. Don't watch it. Change the channel. It's not for you. There's plenty of stuff that is, who were we talking about before? Chrissy Mayer. That's on Netflix.
Oh, I forgot to actually bring up Vincent's thing on there. Do you have any opinions on Chrissy Mayer? I think we might disagree, but I don't know. You got any real opinions on her?
It falls under the Hassan Minaj Avant Guard stand-up, and it I don't know.
So I don't
like. Look, I have
Chrissy has a special. You might be thinking of someone else. So she is kind of associated with Compound Media. So like Kumia's company.
Chrissy Mayer, right. The one that you spoke about with OC.
Yeah,
okay.
I was gonna say I have kind of an affinity for her now, because after that debate, I didn't really know a ton about her before that. Just I'd seen what they had kind of presented during that one, initiative stream. And I just thought that wasn't enough of a case to call somebody racist. But after that, I looked into like a bunch of her jokes, and I think she can be really funny.
Right.
She also kind of followed me after we had the debate whether or not she was racist. So maybe I'm a little bit biased now, but I don't know. I have laughed quite a few times at what she says. I don't agree with her on everything, but hell, I think she's funny, man.
Well,
so
you shouldn't have to agree with everybody on everything. She's. I'm glad that I was never asked for my opinion on it from the fallout of that debate, which is fucking fascinating if you ask me. But in hindsight, I wasn't the comedy guy. So.
Well, it's really sucks because I ended up talking to Ed about comedy, and that dude knows nothing about it and made it like perfectly clear that like he doesn't watch comedy, he doesn't like it. But I don't know. I wish I hadn't been such an ass to you in the comments section. And that would have been a fun conversation to actually
We're
have
having
at
it
the
now.
time with
We're
you.
having it now. It's fine.
Yes. So that's awesome. But yeah, I do have regrets about that and the way that went down. But yeah, cool. So I just wanted to kind of call her out. I don't think that she's getting the correct interpretation on a bunch of jokes. I understand it is art, it is subjective. The interpretation could be up to the listener. I'm not sure how she's quite getting that all he's saying is trans people are yucky. But
Yeah, I don't think, see, like that is something that if you're going yeah, I don't like comedy. I don't like to laugh. I don't like smiling. So really quick,
But this is the same lady who said that she likes to go to watch people bomb. So I don't know that she is the biggest fan of comedy.
Right. So really quick, Chrissy Mayer, apologies. I was thinking about, who was I thinking about? Australian.
Possibly Michelle Wolf. I don't know. I'm trying to think who kind of looks like her that had a special.
No, I wasn't. I was thinking of the person who has like a plush doll on stage. I had a brain fart moment, and I just put somebody into
I'm kind of blanking too. Oh, no big deal. I miscategorized. I somehow like file actors and actresses like similarly, and I always recall the wrong one from my brain.
You asked me.
Perfectly understandable.
You and Patrick asked me, like grouped together with the Hassan Minaj thing. It's a not straight stand-up act out of, I want to say, Australia or New Zealand.
I definitely remember the Hannah Gatsby, but
Hannah Gatsby is it.
Oh,
Hannah Gatsby is it. So I was.
Oh, my bad. Wow, that is the first I've been compared to Hannah Gatsby. I hope
With
it's
the
the
hairstyle.
last, but okay. Well, fair enough. Fair enough.
So my head was seeing Hannah Gatsby. I wasn't reading the name. So apologies to everyone incorporated with my mental fuck up.
Oh,
But Chrissy Mayer,
I'm sure it's all good.
Is quite funny and fills the void of Lisa Lampanelli, to be quite frank. And that's somebody who I literally have an attachment to. She emceed my first gig ever and called my mother the C word.
I wonder if she'd do that today.
She wouldn't. She said it.
Yeah, so that's definitely a discussion I'd also be interested in having, but I don't know. Do you see someone like Lisa Lampanelli, who was known as, like one of the dirtiest roast comedians? Do you see her as kind of like pulling up the ladder behind her now that she's basically saying like there's a bunch of comedy that should be off limits? Which
I don't know.
I don't know. Seems to go in the face of like her past.
Considering our history, I think we could ask her together, to be honest with you. I think I could get her in an interview. Because we have that history, because she said you have 5 minutes, and this is there was no green room at the New York Comedy Club. It was like the size of a bus. It was tiny. So my mother had the front row seat, which was the only table in front of it. Like it's literally like you're performing in the middle of a bus, and the stage is facing like a wall, and the crowd is up and down the proverbial bus. But my mother had the table right in front of the quote unquote mic stand. I'm not going to call it a stage. And she was just exaggerating all of my nervous emotion. And Lisa Lampanelli said something along the effect of, you're really being a C word. And my mother like got more exaggerated and nervous. And I'm like, oh, shit, she's sitting in the absolute worst spot for this. And so before I'm going up, she says, all right, you have 5 minutes. You get the light. It's somewhere up top there. And I'm like, yeah, don't go anywhere. This is my first time ever. And she was like, oh, okay. And I said, she goes, beware that lady right in the front. I'm like, yeah, that's my mom. You called her the C word. And she had a really, really, like, we had like a moment. And, I ended up doing like 3.5 minutes. I told her, don't leave. I don't know if I'm going to do the full 5. And It was weird. The same woman that called my mom the C word, as she was coming up stage, she was going, "That was really good." And I was like, "Wait, who the hell are you?" It was like
Oh,
so.
she was nurturing.
Yeah, it was like such a moment. Like it's I don't know. Yeah, yeah. She like it's
What up, the juice man?
yeah,
You're right, man. Like, she used to kill at roast, and she was brutal. Like,
yeah,
she would not take anything from anybody, and I'd say she was as vicious as anyone else, and
yeah.
she killed, man.
And
It was
again,
just weird to kind of see her recently.
it's that moment where she said you like you did like she had human emotion, and I knew that. Like my first time, I knew that what she was doing on stage was what she was doing on stage. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You got hi,
Hey,
hi,
Troy
Troy.
McClure. Welcome, sir. Awesome to see you over here.
Indeed.
Uh, yeah. And yeah, hell of a comment.
Yeah,
But yeah, like
go on.
sorry, we each kind of cut each other off with words. I don't know. Like that is awesome. I guess I wouldn't have seen her as, like actually being like supportive and everything, but I only know her persona.
Yeah,
I've never talked to her. I've just seen what she did on stage, and it kind of I have a perception of her, and that's probably wrong. There is such a thing as a stage persona. You know.
yeah, and dude, like I'm telling you, like my first gig ever, and it was like when this was before she was a big deal on roast. I mean, fuck, she was emceeing. Pardon for the F word. She was emceeing at the New York Comedy Club, which at the time had 2 rooms.
What up, Andrew Clark?
Hello there, Andrew.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt your story. You were saying at the time it had 2 rooms. Sorry.
Yeah,
I just saw Andrew. I got excited.
and Lisa Lampanelli was emceeing the small room where I think I was the second to last act as my first time. So like this was her going through some shit. And then when I saw her as like this roast person talking about all these debaucherous acts, I'm like, that's the same person that was like, "Oh, you did good." Like, so in such a older sister / motherly fashion, it was so like I knew that like, yeah, that's a stage bit. Like that person. It's weird. I mean, it's fascinating just being on the other side of comedy sometimes and just seeing how the sausage is made.
Kind of seeing behind that curtain.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be totally interesting. All right. So I think the next couple clips are me being petty, but I just wanted to kind of point this out, and I think you let her get away with this.
With cable, which is probably why I turned out how I did. But anytime I had the opportunity to gain access to Comedy Central, I made a point of watching the Dave Chapelle show, because unlike things like SNL,
not
I
called the Dave
always
Chappelle
knew
show.
that the Dave Chapelle show was gonna be funny. In fact, I think the Dave Chapelle show was probably my very first example
even says Chappelle
of
show
a
up there.
TV show that was produced by a Black person that spoke about tough subjects like racism in a comedic way. And I'm not going to ignore that that probably was really influential to my own life and my own creations on YouTube. So I know that I like the Dave Chapelle show, but I actually haven't seen.
So it's 100% me being petty, but I mean, I know what she's talking about when she says the Dave Chappelle show, but it's Chappelle's show. Like, come on, like the theme song is Chappelle's show. Like, come on, like,
Yeah. Ow!
yeah, like, come on, there is no Dave Chappelle show. But fair enough. That's just me being super petty. Just you let her get away with that. I just think when she's saying how much of a fan she is, it would be great to actually get like the
Yeah.
show's name
I mean,
correct.
the
But
semantics of it. I mean,
I'm a jerk.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. For the sake of paying attention, I wasn't going to be like, the Chappelle show, Dave.
Excuse me. Actually, yeah, I'm that guy. So
Yeah.
I wanted to be petty here for a minute and just kind of point that out.
Did you
I
say
think
it's
that's
it's
the
good
last
to be
petty
here
one
in
that
New
I-
York City? I think you mean Manhattan, the borough of Manhattan.
Technically, yeah. So I wanted to be that guy for a second. I think that's the last petty one that I have.
In
But
a lot
I
of
do
his
have a
stand-up
couple more
comedy
in here.
until his recent Netflix specials. And honestly, I think that when a comedian makes his set mostly about making a grand political statement, the comedy comes second to that.
Dave did something that
So there was one thing that I wanted to ask you on that. Did you see him as making a grand political statement with this special or with the previous special? I know he's obviously touching on a subject that people, see as like a live wire. The second you touch on it, you have come down on one side or the other politically, apparently. But I don't know. Like, if I'm trying to think of like what the grand political message of this was, like it would be kind of his closer with that whole like dreamer thing.
Yep.
Um, am I wrong on this? Like, do you see some grand political narrative that he was trying to weave into this?
It's subjective. It is art. I would say the bit about the handicapped people,
Mm,
where he says, they're probably in the back where we make them sit, or something along
yeah,
those lines.
yeah,
That is a grand political statement about how society
I think so.
puts,
Yeah, just the treatment of
yes,
the handicap,
yes,
like is
and
is really
it's just right in there. It's right in there, and it's not the punchline. It's nothing. It's just it's a commentary on society, and it's not the punchline. So, is it a grand political statement? Sure. Is it the top tier of his bit? Possibly. It's how you interpret it. But when I heard it, I was like, this is funny. This is like, regardless of what the punchline was, yeah, he's got a point. And again, I'll go
well, I
back
think
to Clayton Bigsby from the Dave Chapelle show, which
exactly. Like, I mean, to me, like there is politics in that, but I don't know if even that is a grand political statement. Like,
yeah,
I guess you could interpret it that way,
yeah,
but I would say that's every bit as political as this. But I, I don't know. I guess I struggle to find what the grand political statement is. According to her, it's that trans people are gross and yucky and shouldn't exist and are bullies. I don't know.
right,
It just feels so uncharitable to me, but
yeah.
perhaps I'm wrong. So I wanted to see if you saw a grand political narrative in there.
No,
Or
no,
sorry, grand political statement. I guess I could see narrative with the jokes. They do kind of lean a certain way. So I guess I could see someone say narrative, but yeah, political statement. I'm wondering what that statement would be.
yeah. I don't know what his, again. I don't know if Chappelle has come out and run for office and announced that since that special or anything. But n- again, if you interpret it as that, then okay. But you're also somebody who's claimed to go to comedy shows to see people bomb. And
Yeah,
you're
I mean,
misquoting things like trans people are yucky. Like you can't do that. Like, how many times do people try to retell a joke and then like fuck up words, and then it just doesn't hit the same way? You can't take things out of context when they hit like that. Like, you just can't do that, because he didn't say trans people are yucky. Like, you're just like doing your own thing at this point. Like, you're completely taking a comedian set that we've discussed this earlier, that they take months, weeks, months, maybe even years in some cases, of putting this material together, and you're just destroying it, and just, well, this is how I interpret it. Which, yes, I'm going against myself by saying it's subjective, but you cannot then regurgitate it to your audience and have them think that he's calling people yucky based on how you interpret it. That's not what he said. Show the clip, or read the text at least. Like, comedy is something that has to be delivered a certain way. It's
yeah.
so frustrating. It's so frustrating. I can't
Well,
stand this internet. I'm going to do a thing to shit on a thing. Like, I cannot
well,
stand
that's
that.
why. Me too. And I think it feels super disingenuous when you're saying like they're trying to make a grand political statement, and then you don't say what that statement is supposed to be. So it's
Right.
like just
Yeah,
open
what is
to
it?
interpretations. Like if it's such grand a statement, like what is it? Because I'm positive I got a different interpretation out of
Mhm.
that. Like mine is a little bit more wholesome with the dreamer thing, that like you don't know whose dream you're actually in. This could be
Yes,
somebody
yes.
else's dream. And
And
I really like that message.
and again, I think we discussed this, if not verbally, but through text. I remember thinking that, wow, I'm wondering how long he put this bit together. Because
Yeah.
it's so
It
sincere. Like he's talking about how 20 years ago, 25 years ago, his child was born, and this is he's asking for a happy birthday from Facebook. It's very similar to that, but his clapter line. First of all, it was an encore. That bit. It was his encore because he let them know
Yeah.
the show's over, and then he did this encore bit, so to speak. But
After waiting for a cigarette.
yeah,
That's possibly the one thing that I would have said, like, yeah, we could probably edit out the, hey, somebody bring me a cigarette thing. But, to
And
each
he-
their own. Everything else on this was
and
great.
he does say in that special that, guys, I'm just trying some things, and it's like, wait, this is bold. This is The Day the Laughter Died, part 3. So for those of you who don't know, I just have to explain this. Andrew Dice Clay released an album, The Day the Laughter Died, part 1 and
A double
2.
album.
Yeah, a double album.
Yeah, but I think both were double albums. Like, I
Oh.
think it's kind of technically 4 records of just straight up bombing on stage.
Yeah.
Like,
And
it is hilarious.
yeah, if you want to know, like, if you want to prep.
She would love it. Cat Black.
Yes. You want to hear stand-up comedians bomb for 4 albums? There it is. Andrew Dice Clay, The Day the Laughter Died. He released this double album of just bombing. Like, if you want to know what it's like, it's the best prep for stand-up. Genuinely, like, hey, if the things don't go well, this is what it's going to sound like. Like, it's the best prep. And the fact that a record company said, yeah, put it out. Let's press 4 records.
In fact, let's do another one.
Right. He even says that. He's like,
Yeah, and he did this at the height of his career
Yeah.
too. Like,
Yeah.
when he's selling out like Madison Square Garden, this is like him in a club, like just bombing.
Yep.
Like, it is. I don't know. It's ballsy. I don't know. But have you seen what that dude's doing now? Like, on Instagram,
Dice.
he just like goes up to people, holds his camera up, and is like, "You wanted a picture?" And like, nobody knows who he is because it's just Dice. Like, they are the most like meta, like crazy. He's like pranking people, but the joke is on him that nobody knows who he is. It's really hard to kind of like explain, but he's also gone up to, I think it was Matt Damon was in an airport. He went up to him. He's like, "You wanted the picture?" It was just kind of great. I'm really not doing it justice, but that dude,
So
he
you're
is
quoting
okay with being like awkward and just bombing.
Yeah.
That it's awesome. He knows what is funny to, the outside audience. Like, yeah, the person in front of you doesn't have any idea what's going on, but somebody outside of this is going to really appreciate this. And that's awesome. I don't think I could do that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No.
Sorry. Yes, we're talking about Andrew Dice Clay. No association with
Yeah.
Dice Roland,
Massive apologies,
the
guys.
superior Dice.
Yeah, another fucking bullshit. In 2002, I shared a room with Dice. I didn't. Again, he was in the big room and I was in the small room, but at the same time, I was your alternate choice one night. But on my resume, I opened for Dice. So, cheers.
That's awesome, man.
I
Yeah,
guess.
like I don't have anything great on my resume. I used to record a whole bunch of bands and everything. Again, my best whatever you want to call it, like credit under there is I recorded the audiobook for the guy who wrote Banana Phone and Baby Beluga. So yeah, good times.
There you go.
Hey, it had a foreword from the Dalai Lama, so there's something there. But
6 degrees of
yeah, sorry.
gray poupée.
I paused it for FD signifier here, but
Greg,
I thought
stand up
this one was
comedian.
actually kind of a I thought this was kind of a decent point, but I think he over exaggerates it, and I think he let him get away with it a little bit. But yeah, let me play this point really quick.
I thought was really disappointing for a comedian of his stature. Just shows kind of how much he's deteriorated since his Killing Me Softly days, which is what he talks about at the beginning, where Dave spends like 50% of this special, not in a perfect half, but like at different times, lampshading himself over and over while calling it a joke. Lampshading is when a movie or show or some media purposely points out something that's dumb and makes no sense within it as a way to wink at the audience.
I don't know what happened to the audio there, but it
City's
cuts out for like
fine.
2 seconds.
We're fighting an army of robots. And I have a bow and arrow. None of this makes sense.
I'm hit and miss on this in media because sometimes it is funny, and as a creator, I sometimes do feel like I need to signal to the audience that I know something doesn't quite add up, but there's just to go with it, right? But in other situations, it's just really lazy and more of a crutch for poor writing or bad jokes. In
Is it on purpose,
Chappelle's
too?
case, it's like, again, 50% of the joke.
So I don't know. Like so I understand the concept of lampshading, and he might have done that a couple times. Like if you would count the like this is punching down, I guess I would count that as lampshading. It is kind of calling out what he's doing, but I don't know. Do you see him as like lampshading 50% of
No.
his jokes in this
I-
one?
that's
Am I
the-
just missing it?
It's going back to what I was talking about. If you're going to quote, like if you're going to put up a number like that, sources, please. Can I have the data that supports that number? If you're gonna treat stand-up comedy like statistics, then back up your work.
Yeah. So like I kind of tried to just do like the bits in it, and I don't have like every, like callback or kind of throwaway joke in there, but it's like I counted 30 jokes in total in this thing. I can only see 2 that are like close to lampshading, and I feel like I'm being kind of generous when I say that in there. I don't know. Maybe I'm
Yeah.
wrong, but I just wanted to see if it was something that I missed.
Was
But
like 7.5.
I would even say that like, yeah, I think it would be something like that. But that would be, counting the one where he said, so I'm not going after the trans, I'm going after the handicap. I'm punching down. Like, so I would count that, but to me, that's not like straight up like this is stupid. Like, why
Also-
would he
Also,
says this is silly like one time towards the end, like that for sure. Like saying, calling out something is silly. I think it was his impression of the submersible with the Titanic thing. I think he mentions like this is a silly impression. So I would totally give him lampshading there. But I don't know. I just didn't see lampshading for like 50% of the jokes in this thing. So I don't know. Maybe that's me being pedantic, but when he throws out like 50% of the
No, I
jokes,
ag-
at
I
least
agree-
when they're targeted towards people.
I agree with you there. If you're going to treat stand-up like math, which there is some math in stand-up, but if you're going to do that, show your work.
Yeah.
50%, that's strong. It goes back to the trans people are yucky. Like where did he say that? Like where are you quoting?
Well, she was saying what he was truly thinking, the thing that he's,
okay.
the bravest one to say. I don't know. I agree with you. I really wish they had kind of showed their work. And yeah. So, okay. I just want to make sure that I wasn't like missing this lampshading thing that I don't know. I assumed maybe you would see it better than me with your comedy eyes. I just have,
No, there's
bystander eyes, if you will.
there is you want to talk about I've basically lifted a way that a comedian does this, but Eddie Izzard does a bit where they're talking about like they're speaking as a journalist on a news broadcast, and they're talking about something, and what they do is they go, which of course is they're not buying it. You should probably move on to the next bit. And I've kind of stolen that where I do basically mirror it, where I have a bit about the
Yeah,
spelling
you're
bee.
kind of talking to yourself and give the status kind of a play-by-play.
Yeah.
I've definitely seen Gervais do some of that as well. I thought Izzard definitely did it a little bit better, but
Yeah.
that it doesn't seem unique to him. It doesn't seem like you've stolen somebody's like one and true signature thing.
Yeah, in short,
I've
form,
seen a
I've
bunch of dudes
stolen
kind of do that.
Eddie Izzard, where like again, it's a bit about the spelling bee being on ESPN, and there I think there's one on the internet where which of course is the end of the joke. They should be laughing by now, and that's a straight shorthand lift from Eddie Izzard, and that's a
It's
inspiration.
better than please clap. For sure. Like it's way better. Don't borrow from Jeb Bush, man.
Yes, the other comedians.
Yeah. Well, some of what he says is funny. But yeah, So I guess here is kind of my biggest contention with I believe all 3 videos said this. I don't think I grabbed Cat Black saying it, but I kind of grabbed Vosh and FD kind of making
Oh,
this
Vosh.
assertion.
Fantastic.
This one really pisses me off. Yes, Vosh. Maybe he still has a career. We'll see. But yeah.
Some of the jokes he's made are funny, but a significant portion of the past 3, 4 specials that he's done have been whining about trans people, and they're cowardly
Whiny.
whines too. I remember the first time he talked about trans people, he invoked the name of like a trans friend that he had who's passed now as kind of like a, you know, well, I had a trans friend who's dead now conveniently, so she can't question anything that I say.
She was his opening act.
And that means that everything and lied about it. Yeah, didn't he? Yeah, he like misrepresented her. He like lied about shit she said in the past. You know, very much.
So this is why I hate Vosh. So he reads a headline and then goes along with that. So there was this really shitty article that was written shortly after Daphne Dorman did unfortunately take her own life. But it was basically saying that they looked through a whole bunch of different tweets and they couldn't find any harassment towards her, so she was never harassed, which is really shitty. If you took more than like 5 seconds, you could find a whole bunch of screenshots of a whole bunch of deleted tweets. She definitely had people coming after her, but that was kind of what apparently he misrepresented. And then her family had to come out and say that they support Dave Chapelle and that he has been nothing but nice to her, nothing but supportive, and she was receiving harassment for her support of him. So it's just really shitty. There was an article that had those headlines that he misrepresented what was happening. That is incorrect. It was a very shitty article. So I just wanted to be a dick and kind of correct Vosh for only reading headlines yet again. But yeah, I think it's going to go a little further than that. I think FD kind of brings out the exact same accusations.
And you'd think Dave Chapelle, if nothing else, been good on black issues, but that is like every white boy's first run to with black issues. You know, I have a black friend. So this next opinion I'm about to offer, this extremely well thought out and intelligent racial perspective I have. You know, hey, I have a black friend. You know, he literally did that. But
He brought up his one trans friend after making jokes about
It was his fucking opening act. Holy shit.
I do like the progression of anger that we got to experience.
I'm like getting tired of this, oh, I have this one friend argument thing. Like, yes, society does that. I have a black friend. They do that. It's a meme at this point. But in that special, he doesn't talk about his one trans friend. He talks about somebody that's extremely close to him who was his opening act.
trans people for 40.
Thank you, me from the past.
So yes, and to tag out Charles for just a second. Not only that, in that same special, he talks about 2 other encounters with trans people that he has befriended. He talked about another person who he met her mother at a bar, and then he met her at the bar and thought that she was an extremely forward and amazing kind of person. He saw just how powerful she was, even though she was willing to like come right at him in front of a crowd that probably wouldn't have been in her favor. And he was singing her praises and said that she's a great person. He's cool with her now. Then after that, he has a few more jokes. Then he tells the Daphne story. It's really shitty of them. I don't get where they're saying that he's only has one trans friend. He had one trans friend who literally tried to stand up for him. And she says one of the greatest quotes. So I happen to have it like on my wall here. I've only got a couple of them, but punching down requires you to consider yourself superior to another group. He doesn't consider himself better than me in any way. He isn't punching up or punching down. He's punching lines. That's his job, and he's a master at his craft. Daphne Dorman was just amazing, and she really came out to his defense hardcore in this kind of trans issue. And unfortunately, she got attacked. Obviously, things that can't be 100% responsible for the actions that she chose to do, but I don't know. Saying that it's not a factor at all would be super disingenuous. It just
Didn't help.
It really sucks. Yeah, I'm sure it wouldn't help at all. So it just sucks. I hate how they're kind of misrepresenting what he's saying and then belittling her to saying So I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. FT signifier is going to go on a little bit and make it even worse than a black friend. Instead, now it's just, I know a black guy, or I know a trans person is what he's going to equate this to.
Minutes, he brought up his one trans friend that sadly did commit suicide and used that tangential experience from someone that he heard from to make an umbrella proclamation.
And worked with extensively.
About the entirety of the trans community. Imagine for a second if fucking Larry the Cable Guy did chicken and watermelon jokes for 60 minutes and then at the last 10 minutes said, well, one time I was talking to Chris Rock and he said he totally agrees with what I'm saying. Anyway.
So that's also really shitty. So again, that would be saying that like the closer, it was just 60 minutes of trans jokes. And then, you know, he met this one trans person one time, so it's okay for him. I don't know. It's just so disingenuous. Again, he keeps giving like percentages or numbers out there, but none of them are accurate. Like it really sucks. There are quite a few trans jokes in the closer, but my God, when I did the math on it, it looks like it's I believe it's 52 minutes and 10 minutes of it have to deal with trans material. So it does look like it is about 20% of the special, but still, you know, like it kind of sucks. Maybe it's me being super pedantic and like saying, hey, you're being super hyperbolic with this, but equating like an entire special. It would be great to like clip it actually. But I mean, like to equate it to doing like an entire hour of chicken and waffle jokes, or I believe he said chicken and waffle. I was about to substitute it for something else, and I don't know if that would be even worse. Yeah, was it watermelon? I was about to say that, then I was like, wait, does that make me worse than? I can't remember the exact words that he said. I meant to use his exact thing. Anyway, to do like 60 minutes of racist material, and then the last 10 be like, it's okay, I know a black guy. That just seems so much worse than exactly what happened with this. If you remember, he talks about how his mind was changed. Like he had this preconceived notion of what this trans person would do and that they would hate him because of the news. And it turns out she kind of did, but she had a point. And this isn't Daphne. This is the other trans person. He doesn't give a name for that person in the actual special.
Or something like that.
Yeah. Well, and then he does go into the whole Daphne tribute thing, but this special before that was Sticks and Stones, and it ends with this whole scene of you can actually watch Daphne's performance where she completely bombs in front of everybody, and it's pretty bad. But there's a lot of it that kind of deals with her specifically. She is definitely closer to him than just, you know, he knew this one person, so, you know, because they died, they couldn't speak out against him. Like I don't know, just it seems so disingenuous the way that they frame that. So I don't know. I just wanted to add a little bit more to your indignity, but I really did appreciate the anger that you got up in that one. It just seems so shitty to like equate that to, oh, right. So you actually know somebody and they actually supported you. Right. Isn't that the exact same as I have a black friend?
Yeah.
I don't know. I really hate that both of them kind of went that route. I can't remember if Cat Black did, but I know Vosh referenced it a couple times, but, yeah, I thought FD Signifier's tag on that just made it a little bit worse to me. Okay, getting back to Cat Black. Now we've got kind of the same thing that I showed before, but yeah,
will
good times.
Lean into this idea that the audience is just too sensitive to handle the really offensive joke that they really want to tell. We saw that with Joe Coy's terrible Barbie joke.
Oppenheimer is based on a 721-page Pulitzer Prize-winning book about the Manhattan Project. And Barbie is on a plastic doll with big boobies. I watched Barbie. I loved it. I really did love it. I don't want you guys to think that I'm a creep, but it was kind of weird being attracted to a plastic doll.
He was running out of material, so he reached for misogyny, this commonly understood, historically backed bias against women, and the subsequent objectification that comes along with it. The joke is literally, ha ha ha, Barbie is a woman, woman have boob, boob is funny, boob boob boob, ha ha ha, not as good as nuclear holocaust. It's just hacky.
No.
really
The joke is, I'm attracted to a doll, a plastic doll.
So that was how I got that joke as well. But I don't know.
Why
Like,
even mention?
could we just be looking at this wrong? Is
Why
it
even
just
mention
boob, boob,
Oppenheimer?
boob?
Like what?
Woman is funny. And it's not a great joke, but I think it's supposed to be on him being awkwardly attracted to it. I don't know. It's not a great joke, but yeah, I think the other thing is I don't think anyone mentioned. I think he had like a week to prepare for this, so that would always be sort of tough.
So-
I know my presentation would suck within a week.
Yeah, so to take all of the twine out of the joke itself, what he's essentially saying is, oh, Margot Robbie, attractive person. I'm attracted to Margot Robbie. Is it weird that I have to associate Margot Robbie with a plastic doll and I'm attracted to that? That's what he's saying. Fuck.
Well, if you really stretch, you can just get boobs out of it, though. Yeah, I don't know. And then, like, I think she even threw in a boobs are weird, and it's like, what? Like, how do you get boobs are weird out of? I thought it was the fact that it's a plastic doll and he is attracted to it. I don't know, but so she goes directly from that, and I think that's the way that she kind of sees comedy. Because this is her.
I like that quote.
I guess you'd
these
say
jokes
summary.
are just reflective of the ignorance. Yes, you are ignorant of the jokes.
But yeah. So here's how she describes Chappelle's jokes. She was very generous with Coy. So I'm sure she'll be good with Chappelle.
Jokes are just reflective of the ignorance that cis people have about what transgender people really experience. I hear them the way that I hear Joe Coy's Barbie joke. Ha ha ha, boobs are funny and weird. Ha ha ha, Barbie is a woman. That is the way that I interpret.
When did he say boobs are weird? Like, I don't get that part at all. Like, it could be ha 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 boobs. I guess I could understand that interpretation, but boobs are weird? Like,
Yeah.
I thought the joke that he was weird for liking the doll, but maybe I'm not interpreting it her way.
Again,
but
I appreciate you pausing this too, because I know better. So who's punching down now?
yes,
Because I
that's the
know
thing.
better.
She has this certain knowledge. She knows better than us. Really, it was just boobs are weird is the first one, and now she's going to summarize what Dave Chapelle really meant. I think she's going to be very charitable.
Interpret it because I know better. And I
Like in this special, it's like he didn't even know.
I'm sorry. I thought I put that clip from the beginning there. Apparently, I did not. But it was essentially like trans people are weird, gross. They should not exist anymore. I don't know. Like, I thought that there were a couple of clever jokes. So I did look through, The Dreamer. There were 5 jokes that were about trans issues, and there were 25 that weren't. So I don't know. I wouldn't say that it was all about this. Like, I understand, like, it's not just simple math problems or anything like that, but it's not like it was 100% focused on this. I don't know which one would be trans people are weird and they shouldn't exist. Like, he has the Norm joke where he talks, Norm got him in to see Jim Carrey, and Jim Carrey is playing, now I'm blanking for some Andy Kaufman.
Andy Kaufman himself.
Yeah, and he does a trans reference there. But to me, that's not necessarily trans people are weird and bullies in there. And then he said that he's not fucking with the trans anymore. Instead, he's doing all handicap jokes. That doesn't seem to be calling the trans bullies that shouldn't exist. Maybe I'm wrong. Then he said that he was going to write a play to fix the trans relationship, and it's with the pronoun of the N-word. And then he mentions the California jail thing. Like, if he went to jail in California, he would identify as a woman. And then he has that really funny line about the attacker's knife identifying as a gun. Those were the only trans jokes that I could identify in there. And I'm not getting where she would get her, I don't know, trans people are gross and yucky and weird and shouldn't exist out of that.
Dude, as a writer, the gun that identifies as a knife bit is fucking, it's peak. Like, it's very good.
It is. Yeah, I didn't expect a reference like that. I thought it was quite amazing.
Yeah.
I agree. And I think the fact that he just kind of slips that into the Chris Rock story is just like
Mhm.
amazing. Well, I guess it's sort of the Chris Rock story into his attacker story, but it's all kind of a big chunk.
Mhm.
And I thought there were just so many jokes kind of peppered in there. I really like this special. I think it really shows kind of his growth as
And
You
the
know, kind
cat-
of a comedian to kind of shape the entire special, though, like the way that he has these callbacks that kind of weave in and out. So I really dig it. But sorry, I guess now we're on to FD Signifier, and
comedian.
yeah,
FD Signifier.
that's right,
Student of
comedy
the art.
expert.
What he said in the last special, everything he said in the closer to defend himself, he completely reverses on here, including the whole "I'm not gonna make trans jokes anymore" part. Remember that? Remember how you all clapped for him and said, "Good job, Dave, for deciding he was not gonna be bigoted anymore in public," and then he couldn't even do that shit.
So in that actual the Juice Man has a awesome point at this point in Dave's career. He should be able to joke about whatever he wants, and I completely agree with him. And as Andrew says, as the kids say, it's fire. But yeah, so do you remember the end of the closer? How he kind of goes about that thing where he says that he's not gonna talk about the trans anymore? Do you remember kind of how he went into that bit?
I'm in everybody else's dream. That closer. Spoiler.
Oh, so no, sorry, from the closer, the special, the 2021 one.
Oh,
So the way that he gets into that, where he says that he's no longer going to joke about the trans community, he says empathy is a two-way street. It doesn't just go one way or the other. It's bi. And what he means by that is, you know, I will stop punching down on you guys, but you need to stop punching down on my people, the comedians. And then, do you remember what happened to him after that?
no.
He was attacked, and they tried to get his literally he was attacked on stage. But what I meant to say is Netflix, there was an actual like protest held where a bunch of the employees and a bunch of outside activists tried to get Netflix to remove his specials from it.
I do vaguely remember.
So that's when he so I wanted to include some of that, but it's Netflix, so I think it's all copyrighted. So I was just weirded out by grabbing any of that. But his whole bit is, hey, I won't F with you if you don't F with me. And then he got F'd with again. So I don't think he went back on his word there. It was kind of empathy's a two-way street. I understand you don't want me to joking about you. I won't joke about you again until I know that you and I both understand where these jokes are coming from.
Mm.
But you have to not punch down on my people, the comedians. And that completely didn't happen. So I don't see him as forgetting what he said, but I do see FD Signifier forgetting what he actually said. I then included a clip in that response that you watched, or sorry, reaction video that you watched, that had his then additional comments after that that said that he would be with the trans, but on 3 rules. And the third one's the joke that they have to admit that Hannah Gatsby's not funny. They have to watch his entire special. Yeah. And I thought your response to that was great. I just, I kind of thought that I'd be reacting to this with you. So I was going to clarify that, that wasn't what he said. He said empathy goes both ways. And his condition was stop punching down on my people. I'll leave your people alone. So, yeah, I just thought that part should not go unsaid. But yeah,
the stand-up
I think
equivalent
this
of
next one-
mutually assured destruction.
exactly. It was kind of I'll back off, but you guys got to back off.
Yeah.
Well, neither side backed off.
All right,
So
nukes. We're
I
doing
think
nukes.
it seems like it's mutual. Yeah. So speaking of that really good bit towards the end of the Dreamer, I think she kind of borrows from this unintentionally,
Mhm.
or perhaps Cat Black meant to. But I don't know. It kind of reminds me of one of his jokes, but not done as well. Well, let me see if you notice this as well.
And he fed this to his already ignorant audience during a time where hundreds of anti-LGBT bills are popping up across the country. Now, is Dave Chapelle solely responsible for the spread of anti-LGBT sentiment across the country? No, obviously not. But he certainly did decide to pour gasoline on that fire and then identify with the gasoline so that anyone who tries to throw water on it couldn't do so without feeding his flame.
Maybe I'm reading into it too much, but that
Identify
identify with the gasoline. Isn't that pretty damn close to Chappelle's joke of, the guy had a knife that identified as a gun?
Mhm.
It seems like a really fun turn of phrase, considering, the subjects that he was talking about, and then the fact that it literally is one of those, it looks like a metal gun, but a knife blade can be pulled out of it.
Yes.
I thought that was awesome. I don't think hers works that well, but I think if she didn't do this consciously, I think subconsciously it worked her way. It worked its way into her script. What does it even mean to identify with the gasoline?
Yeah.
Like, so I don't think I understand her analogy. He decided to pour gasoline on the flames, then identify with the gasoline. If you were to be charitable, is there
Or
any way that
yourself.
you can make that make sense? I don't know. Like, I don't know. I think it's a poor attempt to do like Dave Chapelle did, but it just
Well,
kind
I
of
mean,
shows that he's way more of a
Kat Black has learned so much from watching comedians bomb that she now knows how to
that's
bomb in
true.
comedy.
Oh,
Um,
that makes sense actually.
that is a poorly written joke, if any. If we can, like you said, be generous and call it that. Um, to pour gasoline on the fire and then identify as gasoline would
Maybe I'm stupid, but I don't understand what she's even getting at with that. Like, I get the concept of you pour water on a gas fire, like it's going to spread. It's not necessarily going to put it out.
yeah.
You generally need chemical agents, but I don't understand the whole identify as gasoline while pouring gas. I don't know. Maybe that's a reference to the I'm Team Turf joke from his previous special. If I really want to try to be generous, like turfness could be a fire. I don't know. I think that's stretching and I'm being way too generous, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's what she meant.
Yeah, I mean, I would like a clarification.
It would be
an
nice
apology.
on a lot of these points. Yeah, I don't think you're going to get that,
I
but
know.
clarification, it would be nice. All right.
Have
and
we
then,
checked? Have we
moving
checked with
on.
the flammable fuels community how they feel about the identity joke
I haven't. I wonder if that.
or water?
Hmm.
How does water feel
Hmm.
about that joke? See, like that. I'm speaking in jest. Obviously, I'm going to go ahead and say I was kidding and ruin everything. But like that's the point.
And I
Like,
get it. I'm pedantic.
Yeah.
I'm drawing attention to this and focusing on this detail. Like it really doesn't matter. We get like what she meant to say that he's somehow like stoking this fire and I'm assuming she meant more identify with the fire, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
And I just hate, like, this is a time where I hate that I am a white cis male, because this isn't the white cis male talking. This is the comedian talking. Like, this has nothing to do with
Speak of the flammable fluid committee. We got Andrew here, and he's saying, yeah, it doesn't make sense, but and same with Troy.
us in the pyro community.
That is awesome, sir.
There's always time to change it up. Okay. But yeah, as a comedian, it's like, it's offensive to just, again, it's that joke that, oh, I'm ruining this bit. Like, oh, we saw this great comedian last night and here's the bit, but I'm just butchering it. Like, you're doing that. And it's offensive to people that take months, years, however long to create a bit, and you just represent it incorrectly. And
I feel like an ass because I think the next clip I'm going to play is somebody saying like, okay, now I'm going to butcher this bit, but here's what the comedian, like, I think I'm literally playing that next. So I'm sorry, but I thought it had merit, but I agree with you. It sucks. You're never going to do it as good a justice as the actual comedian. Like they're the true artists, you're just doing a cheap knockoff of it. But kind of along those lines, good segue.
He's doing the same thing a lot of lazy hacks do, which is that they're capitalizing on an easy target you can punch down on. Remember, the whole point of comedy, in many cases, is to punch up.
Or to be honest, I don't think comedy is about punching up or punching down. I think comedy is, maybe this is a little hippy-dippy-ish, but I think it's kind of about bringing the room together. I think comedy is about even the person who disagrees with you, whereas if you were to just make an argument, they would dig in and go, no, I don't agree with that. But if you get something really hilarious, even they go, all right, you got me with that a little bit. So it's not even, it's not punching.
It's political.
Well, I think,
I'm talking about political comedy, not
well,
just comedy.
anything talking about politics is going to be talking about up, I guess, rather than down, because that's who's in political power. But I'm just saying that what I think the point that you were making was that it seems like it's more these days like bashing the other side. Like, I'm on the left, I want to bash the right. I'm on the right, I want to bash the left. Rather than, I want to make a room full of people who could be left or right all kind of go, okay, he's got a point. One of my favorite jokes ever told was George Carlin, who's to me.
And again, I'm sorry that I'm, making him tell a Carlin joke. Again, this is that Poly Center for the, for
arts.
media.
Oh, media.
It's amazing. So it's kind of this conference that they put together. It's got Dave Smith, a whole bunch of other comedians on there.
I blew myself.
So it's also got Dave. Yeah, exactly. Now I'm blanking on his last name. Dave. He is hilarious. He's from, Bob and Dave.
Dave Chapelle.
Yeah. Not Dave Chapelle. Dave. God
Oh,
damn
no,
it.
not Dave
I am,
Chapelle. Wow.
really- Dave Cross.
Yes.
Dave Cross. Sorry. So Dave Cross is on there. Felonious.
I'll never
Monk,
get work.
And there's. Well, neither will I. I somehow forgot Dave Cross's name. I literally have seen him live. Well, I've seen Dave Smith live as well.
I've
But I think
crisscrossed
he had some really
4
good points
comedians
here.
now.
Hey, what can you do? I mean,
I do want to
the
add
words. That's what you're good at.
Yeah, not pictures, names. So to what he's saying right now, if you watch that Dave Chappelle special, the most recent one, when they show crowd reactions, it is diverse. Like his crowd is so incredibly diverse, and that is incredible. I mean, to make that many people want to come out and pay and see you from all these different walks of life, I would think that's doing rather well. Crossing all these different, I don't know, political boundaries or social boundaries or whatever. It's just hammering home what he's talking about, how it's kind of for everybody.
Yeah, and I cut him off right before he's about to butcher an amazing, awesome Carlin bit. It is actually one of my favorite bits, and you'll probably remember this too. But I just thought it was a little bit apropos that you're like, now anytime somebody's like butchering it, it's like, oh, I'm about to play that in like 10 seconds. But yeah, Troy definitely has an awesome comment here. Enough of the punching up or down stuff. That implies that some of us are better or worse than others. Every person or group faces unique challenges that are worth pointing out or joking about. I completely agree with you. The other quote that I have on my wall here, it's actually from Eric Weinstein, which is weird. I wouldn't normally have a quote from Weinstein, either of them, but any Weinstein. But if I cannot make fun of you, you are not my equal. I don't think anything should be off limits. It definitely would set hierarchies. So I don't know. I completely agree with what Troy's saying, and that kind of falls along with the Eric Weinstein quote that I always look at. But yeah, now let's get a Carlin joke.
The greatest comedian who ever lived. And he did the joke about Muhammad Ali getting thrown in jail for not going to the war. And I'm going to butcher this, but the joke was that he was like, Muhammad Ali had a weird job. It was punching people in the face. The government said, you can't punch people anymore. You got to kill people. And he was like, no, that's where I draw the line. And they said, well, if you're not going to kill people, we won't let you punch people anymore, and threw him in jail. And it's such a brilliant joke that even someone who was an adamant Vietnam War supporter would go, that's pretty funny, man. That's like, and it's not about punching you as much as it is about like going like, okay, I see it from your perspective.
Maybe I'm a wide-eyed optimist or whatever. I'm always called that. Me, Mr. Brightside. But I don't know. I'd like to think that's the power of comedy. Dave said it amazingly. But if you just come in here and you tell somebody they're wrong, I think that's really hard to get through to somebody. But if you can really make them kind of laugh and kind of take a different look at a certain situation, I think you got a real chance of getting through to someone. I think comedy can be super powerful. I know it's made me rethink some of my ridiculous stances on a bunch of issues I had kind of thought I had a grasp on before. I don't know. I really think that comedy is powerful.
Dude,
so I don't know. Do you?
Yeah.
Please.
So Jim,
you're the professional.
No, I'm not known for comedy. I brought him up a couple of times, and I'll evoke his name again because he brings it up. And from what I know over here, it's going on again. Jim Jeffries has this bit about gun control, and
Mm.
he really dissects the issue rather well. If you have 20 minutes to really get a face wash of just how ridiculous the Second Amendment is, watch Jim Jeffries doing that bit, and like when he does the 10% of you, or if you don't like it, go home. If you don't like it, go home. And it goes, no, your First Amendment says I can say that your Second Amendment sucks dicks.
Yeah.
it's-
I mean, it's a good point, man. Yeah, I thought that bit was actually really good. I really dug that.
yeah.
And yeah, Dice has a point as well. You know, you want to take your time with that face wash.
Yeah, especially if you don't have your summer skin yet. So he talked about how like that comes up every time there's a mass shooting, and it's not about like he I don't know what my point is, but people look to that to like make sense of something that really happened, and he's dissected something so well that people keep going back to it, that like I think it still has aged. I mean, in a time where nothing ages well, it's still prevalent. I have like secondhand, oh, America's being America again, washed down information on what's happened recently at a Chiefs parade or something, and a church over the weekend. Do I have that right?
I think so.
Okay.
I know I kind of stayed away from the news, but that's what I kind of caught from just the headlines.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm not looking to report it. But I think that's what I saw in the headlines. But I did not do any further research.
Yeah. So, like again, across the pond here, it's kind of America with their guns. And I'm paraphrasing. I'm paraphrasing. Please.
You mean our freedom?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's fascinating if you go and watch that Jim Jeffries bit from one of his older Netflix specials. I want to say 13, maybe 14. Bear. I think it's on Bear.
Mm.
It's modern. It still works today. It's funny, and it has a point. I don't know what my point
It's
was.
true. That one also sticks with you. I definitely remember that one. I was trying to remember which special it's from. I definitely remember the bit, but yeah, I think it probably is Bear, like you were saying. But yeah, I think a lot of those, comedy has that power where it could actually kind of make you second guess your kind of preconceived notion or where you've kind of fallen on it. I know, there's a lot of comedians who do not share the same beliefs as me, but they've definitely made me kind of reassess where I'm kind of coming down on a certain issue.
Sure.
I know I've certainly dug it. It feels like it is something where it could make you reconsider a lot more than just, I don't know. If you just watch the opposing news, I think you're going into it with kind of a closed mind. But the fact that you're there to laugh, I think perhaps you're going to be a little bit more open to ideas.
Well, I've given you credit for mocking me. I knew what you were trying to do, and
You shouldn't. You should hold that against me. But I didn't do a good job. Even talking to you afterwards, it's like you're right. Like that would have been so much better. Like why the hell did? You're right.
well,
Leave
you're-
it to a comedian to really know how to mock somebody.
but I understood what you were doing, and had a certain appreciation for what it was you were doing. And listen, I just did a little punch up on your punchline, but what you did was you presented it as a punchline. I just happened to be a little early in the setup, but
Yeah,
each their own.
I do have regrets. Hindsight is 2020, and I could have done that so much better, and I should have given real credit. Hey,
Hey there.
Kid is joining us. Hello. Well, okay, let me ask you kind of the $1 million question then. So they've kind of put forth, at least Vosh has, and I believe FD Signifier also did, that the job of a comedian is to punch up, not down. What do you think the job of a comedian is?
Make people laugh, to have a sense of humor.
Okay, so if you're going to say to make people laugh, again, I'm a math guy. I like the numbers. Is there a percentage of the audience, like if one person is laughing, did you succeed?
It depends. Case by case basis. There's my fallback. I have a bit that I know isn't strong, but it's more of like a segue kind of thing where like it's more like a memory thing where if I need to like transition out of like something that's bombing or whatever, I'll just throw this random question to the audience that the terminology has since changed. So I don't even know how to present it. Forgive me for using dated terminology, but what I would do in a pinch would I would to transition out of something that I would not finish and go to something else is I would take a drink and say, do we have any Siamese twins in the audience? Which I believe it's now conjoined twins, which works for comedy because the k and g sounds are mathematically speaking. You want to talk about math?
They're comedic.
Yeah, humans tend to react more to k and g sounds. When you hear a punchline, I would say 8 times out of 10, and like it's just this nonsensical word or city or whatever, you'll hear a k or g sound because it's just we like those. Why did the chicken cross the road? It's because that sounds funny to us. So what I do is I ask them, do we have any conjoined twins in the crowd? Which, I mean, how often do you see them about? The joke within that little, distraction, so to speak, is how often are they, they're a minority within a minority within a minority. And I don't know what I would do if I ever had conjoined twins in the audience. And, it's this slow moving wave where I know I'm not getting the whole room, but if I get 4 or 5 people, as they start to realize what I've just done, because I don't want an answer. I'm just saying something ridiculous. And at a certain point where I get my my bearings straight and there's that trickle of 10% laughter, if that, I'll say, well, I guess that's not that funny. And I go, fuck you guys.
Do you ever get any like follow-up questions on that? Or is it just kind of like one of those kind of awkward, you mentioned like 10% or so are like chuckling, but I don't know.
So
with that,
what I do is I lead into,
I could see heckling in that moment.
I do lead into a bit about identical twins. So I have
Nice.
a fallback.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, you'd kind of hope that you would. With something like that, you're kind of leaving open. It does feel like it would kind of lead to some sort of openness where, either you're going to, I don't know. I'm not good at reveling in the awkwardness. Like I make things awkward, so I have to try and make it unawkward. I'm not comfortable with the awkwardness that I exude. But yeah, I think that would be tough. I don't know if I could do well with that bit.
I'm okay with it. Well, yeah. I mean,
fair
listen,
enough.
I don't look to do it. It's just like me saying, "Hey, have you guys ever been to a funeral? You're at one." That's me bombing. What about mute people? Do we listen for the claps? Yeah. Jim Jeffries does a bit about that, actually, Dice. I'll try to source that for you because it's fascinating the way Jim Jeffries talks about how sign language is bad for stand-up comedy because the person who's doing sign language doesn't have comedic timing.
Yeah, I wonder. Huh. That is weird. Like so much of comedy is the timing. I bet that would so throw people off.
And he says,
I actually hadn't kind of thought about that.
And he does he turns it into a bit, which is again, Jim Jeffries is for pound, he's quite funny. He does a bit about how everybody, if there are sign language folks in the audience, because they're facing the audience, just like he says, hell, I do it every now and again. It ruins my stand-up set because every now and again they'll hear a curse and then they'll look to the sign language person to say, oh yeah, what's that word for curse or whatever. And it's, it fucks his timing up too. So it's so I need to find it because it's a
And
brilliant.
it calls me out because I would want to know what the sign language
yeah,
for
he
all
talks about
fair
that,
enough. Like he is
this
pointing me
view.
out. I am that person, like squirrel. Like, what is that? Yeah, I think I would definitely screw him over. Well, fair enough. I appreciate your candid answer on what the job of a comedian is. I do believe there might be one other answer that is kind of given
point,
here.
I'm saying, like, you could look, if you want to say, oh, we should censor lies, well, that begs the question, not the logical term, just it leads to the question: who decides what lies are and what the truth
I
are?
will.
Are
I
we
know
looking?
I know what a lie. I know
Well, I
what a
don't want
lie
you.
and a truth
Well, I'm
is.
sorry. You can clap for that. I don't trust you to be the overlord who decides what the truth is, and I don't trust anyone else, the government or any academics or anyone else to do it either. Like, I think put it out there. And by the way, it's the job of us, if we're talking about the job of political satire, if someone puts out something about how they don't believe, like, whatever, Sandy Hook, kids died there, it's our job to make fun of that person until everyone goes, that guy's ridiculous.
So, yeah,
and if there's some crazy person who hears it and goes and commits violence, the justification for that is the justification to shut down freedom of speech completely, because someone could take it the wrong way. Someone could take what I'm saying the wrong way right now.
You're making a massive
I don't
leap.
think he is, and I don't even like this guy.
I think
I'm punching down.
It's a really awesome panel. So yeah, if you do ever get the chance, do check that out. It's the Pally Center for Media. But yeah, it's a whole bunch of comedians, a whole bunch of different perspectives on free speech, and it is really weird. I would have thought Dave Cross, considering how anti-Bush and how really free speech he was, kind of in the late '90s, early 2000s. I really would have thought that he would be kind of on the different side of that, but. Yeah, it was kind of interesting. And then, some of the other people, I pretty much just grabbed like 3 of Dave's responses. So I did not do that justice. It really is kind of an awesome,
But
I guess, panel that they put together, if you will.
to kind of side with David Cross for a second, he.
Ooh, you want him the overlord of what's truth?
Well, I mean, if something is objectively true, who are we to say what's true and what's lies? I mean, if you're satirically saying something is true or a lie, that's one thing. But, to say that, I don't know, we're not here that's kind of absurd. Like, things that can objectively be proved. Who are we to say whether or not it's a lie? Well, I don't know, but I don't think we are. I don't know. I get.
Fair enough. And I kind of threw that clip in there without. I do too. I don't 100% disagree with him. Like, obviously, if there's somebody just doing like a whole bunch of slander, a whole bunch of defamation, that isn't great. And that's why we do have kind of laws against that type of speech. And it does suck because if they have a shitload of money and you don't, that's going to be really costly to get justice in that case. And it's going to be a huge burden. But I think I'd rather deal with that than, like this entire subject is off limits. Nobody can talk about this. You said this joke and it's not 100% factually true. So now you need to go against some, I don't know. I guess if we were in Canada, it would be a human rights tribunal, but I don't know who exactly would be in front of if we did it in the US. But yeah, I don't know. I do worry if one side were to kind of get in control, because I think either side probably has issues that they would rather the other did not talk about. And I think that could be very detrimental to society if there's certain things that are not speakable, if you will.
There's something. This is more so the case in Denmark than it is here in Great Britain. Denmark, for marketing's sake, you cannot say Budweiser the king of beers or Budweiser like America's whatever. You need to provide information that supports your trademark or whatever. Like if you're going to say, Denmark's favorite whatever, then you need to have some sort of something to back that up. And this is more of a European thing than an American thing. And I actually agree with this. I think if somebody is going to put the word news on their broadcast, misrepresenting. I mean, Fox News has paid quite a pretty penny for misrepresenting quote unquote news, but apparently they beat somebody up live on TV. The Hell's Angels or Guardian Angels, excuse me, and said that it was a non-U.S. citizen who was shoplifting, and neither of those were true. And it happened live.
Yeah, I know I
on
saw
Fox
some
News.
headlines on that, but I didn't really look into that at all. I think that definitely sucks. I think that it is not good what happened to. So I'm trying to think of like some other ones that kind of seemed like they were definitely misrepresented from like news sources. That Sandman kid, the dude with the MAGA hat who was just kind of standing there. The news definitely kind of made it that he was mocking this group of like natives that were there, and it seemed to be kind of the opposite story that they were telling. That sucks. But I think with the way that we currently have our laws here, he was able to get a whole bunch of I don't know if you'd call it justice or retroactive payment for the suffering that he went through for that misreporting of the truth. I hope that happens in this situation too. Like if they're misreporting it, like that's so I always screw up libel and slander. I think libel's in writing, so I think that would be slander. So you should be able to go after them for that. They're misreporting it. They are.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah.
And then it sucks because the initial report is always going to get out further than any sort of retraction.
Yeah,
So
I believe there was a
it
retraction.
sucks.
But the fact is, it's the first hit that hits harder than the it's where the money comes in. I mean, what do they have to pay? Close to $800 million to the voting machine thing.
I think it's something like that. And it sucks because like they definitely, I thought that they were going to release the Kraken and show like all the receipts and everything, but that company took a huge hit. So it definitely seems like that would also fall under the slander thing. Like, they really hurt the reputation of that company. I don't think anyone's going to look at those same voting machines the same. I'm sure the orders did not come in the next year. That sucks, man. Which I do like the laws that we have now that they can get some sort of. I don't know that it's necessarily going to make anything whole or it's ever going to correct the problem, but at least there is some sort of I guess you'd call it justice that they can attempt to get out of that. There is some area where they can go after it and say, no, this is incorrect. Here, prove your thing. But
it's more Curtis than it is Hannity too. I think that was part of the
for sure. And again, it's never going to actually like solve it. The initial report's going to get way further out than any correction. It's damage is done, and the reputations are going to be hurt for sure. It sucks. I guess I'd rather err on the side of, we can have these sort of corrections for it rather than like it all needs to go to like the truth ministry and everything would have to pass through them or something. It just sounds so Orwellian to me, but I can see the comfort of it that like, if we did have this truly independent body that we could all trust.
I mean, there's a delay.
I just don't know that I would trust.
We can't curse, and we have a delay for cursing. You would think that, beating somebody up in the street, for justice is, I don't like, you would think you'd want to get all of the facts before you just show a group of people beating the piss out of someone on the quote unquote news channel.
And that's a huge problem right now. Like, just, you have to be the first one to get the news.
Oh,
you need to have
if it bleeds, it leads.
And they're going to, I don't know if there's like some amazing like answer to all of that, but yeah, it definitely seems like a problem. I don't know. I guess it would be worth a think on that. But I'm not sure if the alternative would be better. If there is like some truth ministry or whatever that like every report needs to go through them, like every live broadcast is now delayed by like 5 minutes to be fact checked or something. Even that, I don't know if that would cover it. So I don't know. And then would that cover, like YouTube as well? Like if you're doing like YouTube on the ground reporting, I don't know. It seems like it would be very tough to kind of
So
control the spread of news, if you will.
to speak on the maybe this is a topic for another day and a different stream, but like
No, it's funny.
disincentivize streamers who do crime during a live stream. I don't think they should be incentivized to be streaming themselves performing crime, but I don't know what law you would put in place that would prevent that. I mean, on the flip side, the 9/11 broadcast, I'm certain, probably saved people that it was happening live. People like, oh, I'm not going downtown. Or, if there's a live shooter situation, people, all right, I was planning on going to the mall, but I guess not now. So yeah, it's hard. It's a case by case basis. I think just keep leaning on that.
Oh, I just saw this comment. Not sure if you're an actual person that has an actual question or if you're still there, but if you are, yeah, I was not checking Twitch. So please feel free to send a question. But I don't know. Like, I agree with you. I think this might be like an even bigger category because it is my fault for kind of throwing this clip in there where it doesn't really have anything to do with anything other than he does kind of mention the job of a comedian, kind of specifically in regards to like political comedy. And
you're doing political comedy.
I was going to say there might be more of a responsibility if you're doing political comedy. I don't know if you can just. Well, I don't know. I do have. Please, Andrew, please feel free to ask away, man. We're all open to questions.
You front loaded a question with a
question. You just did, sir. So I don't know. Maybe there is more responsibility for a political comedian, but at the same time, I don't know. It would be that whole possibly speaking truth to power thing. I don't know. I maybe I'd like to think on that a while. Like if political comedy does have different rules. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean,
I know. I think this might kind of go into that AI comedy conversation that I'd like to have with you, because it does kind of go into AI comedy seems an awful lot like an impression, and I don't have an issue with an impression. I don't know. With political comedy, a lot of the times you do get an impression and it's over the top. You're obviously talking completely. You're not saying things that the actual candidate would say, but, you're being super hyperbolic over the top with it. I don't know. I guess, I guess I would want to leave that open for the possibility of even a bad impression with an over the top satire. Maybe that is speaking some truth to power or something like that. But
so in the case of the AI thing, presenting 100% of, 100% of that George Carlin special is quote unquote AI George Carlin, and it's pretty fucking close. Like it's.
I'm looking forward to talking about that because they just got sued to high heavens, and they had to remove it from YouTube yet again.
Did you download it? Because I didn't, and that sucks.
I've got a few choice clips, but I think I have something maybe even better than that. So I have another group of 5 comedians who plugged thousands of hours of their own material into an AI and a voice generator, and they have AI versions of their comedic sets. So that one is for sure not struck down because it's not, saying this is this dead comedian's newest special. So it's a little different, but I think we could get to the same ideas through that. So I'm looking forward to having that conversation with you, hopefully in the near future. But yeah, that one's all good to go. Yeah, I think I have one final clip, and Yeah, this gets a little interesting, and this is the one that kind of got copyright struck. So this is, the next clip is the one that'll get copyright struck. But here's Mark Norman. He's the dude that I was talking about a little bit earlier. He's the guy that I keep stealing his essence, if you will. This dude had kind of an idea on political, I guess, if everything is political.
Before, we just used to go and watch comedy, and the comedy that you used to watch was the comedy you used to watch.
Right.
But now everything has become political because of that internet culture. So everything has become political, even comedy. And it's like, if a comedian isn't political, it's starting to look a bit weird. Do you know what I mean?
I guess, but I'm not political.
Yeah.
But they still try to put you in a box. They go, I had a woman once after a show, she goes, I liked your set, but I can't tell if you're right or left. And I was like, good. That's a good thing. I'm just being funny.
Yeah.
And why are you sitting there trying to pinpoint it? Just enjoy the fucking show, you crazy coos.
Yeah.
What are we doing here?
Yeah.
This isn't a debate or anything. Like, what are we? Oh, where is he at? Like, just watch. Watch the fucking show.
But that's the problem. The internet has made everything political.
Right.
Every art form political.
So I think now.
So this right here is the. Yeah. So sometimes I really enjoy where their conversations go, but I really like that one with Mark Norman. But I guess I would like to be. I guess I'd like to ask you. You're the professional here. Do you think there is such a thing as not being political as far as comedy? Can you do comedy without being political, or is it political no matter what?
I mean, you can't control the audience. Mark did have a pretty brilliant way of breaking that down. Like, just enjoy the show. I can't.
Yeah.
Like, why are you trying? Just listen, and if it's funny, laugh. Again, it's unfortunate, and I wouldn't put it solely on the shoulders of the internet. Like, we weren't political 10 years ago, and we had Twitter 10 years ago, YouTube, all of that. The internet was prevalent in 2014. Again, the Dunning-Kruger effect, I feel, for reactionary commentary, everything, is 2016, where everything kind of went hard to one side, and we kind of dragged where the sensitivity spot is, like, really hard in the direction that we went in. However you want to be
careful with the sensitivity spot.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't splooge on that. Oh, wait, what was the word? Dice? Shit. I don't think it was splooge.
I think it was sploosh. I think when you add the G in there, it becomes dirty.
I knew, once I said it, I was like, I don't think it was that. But
sorry for cutting you off with a stupid joke there.
No.
I agree with you, and that's kind of how I view it. I think I would come down very similar to where Mark came down on this one, but I don't know. So this is a band, I really like them. They've actually got an album, I think, releasing the end of the week called Tank, but it's a band called The Idols. They're really awesome. This is an interview on KEXP. So they apparently have a really good copyright detection system, and this got flagged as copyrighted. So that's why I wanted to do it on my channel instead of yours. I didn't want to get you claimed for this since you are monetized. But it's really interesting. So they're not playing any music, but they happen to be talking about art and politics and whether it's political. And I kind of hadn't heard this point of view. So I thought it was important to kind of grab it. I don't know that I agree with it, but it's an interesting point that he's putting forward.
More than ever, people are looking for the creative minds to kind of change narratives a bit and open discussions in the populace,
People are looking to the artists, and people are looking to musicians. Do you feel is that kind of weight, is that sort of pressure okay for an artist?
Yeah, I mean, it depends. We don't see it as a pressure. Like, we've got no responsibility to do anything. If I want to write about ice cream, I'll write about ice cream.
You should.
But anything's political, I don't think we're more valid than any other band that sing about love or going out. It's all political. I think ignoring Brexit and ignoring Trump is as political as singing about it. So
could you understand the argument that choosing not to joke about Trump or make a joke about Trump is just as political as the statement about making a joke about Trump? It's an interesting way of looking at like politics and what is political, but
if that were the
I don't
case,
know.
then it would be really redundant. Like,
It seems like it.
You would just rename stand-up comedy or satire to Brexit and Trump, like, or excuse me, music. The arts is now Brexit and Trump. I don't entirely agree with that, although it goes back to I believe Andrew asked before about the great comedian who's also a rapper now, Mr. Shapiro.
He has blessed us all with his rap talent. I mean, first we had WAP, but now we got the goods.
I don't think art should be about the message first and foremost. If you can get the message in there, like, again, I'll go back to the Dave Chapelle handicap bit. He lays it in there. It's just really subtle. Where they sit in the back, where we make them sit, or I'm paraphrasing, whatever he says about how we treat handicapped people in a theater, that is so subtle, and it's not what the joke is about. But he's giving you this to use this prior person's terminology. He's making a political statement, but it's not what the material is strictly about. He can be funny without having that message, but if you want that message, it's there too. And some of the best art is good at being art first and has a message that, like Night of the Living Dead, just a scary movie about zombies. But when that movie closes out, it has it has something to say. But if you don't want that, if you just like zombies, it's there. You don't have to have that social messaging. So the really good artists can do both and trick you into thinking, oh, I was just entertained. Oh, wait a minute. Now that I think about it, this is about this. And again, that plays into subjectivity as well. Is Jon Stewart a right winger now?
I mean, he's not left enough for some. So, in some people's eyes, he now is.
Because Biden is...
good point, kiddo.
Yes. Biden being 81 years old is, what is that, 16 years above retirement? That's not old. I don't know what people are talking about.
No.
It's not old at all.
I mean, 81's the new 75? I don't know. We're living longer now. They got drugs. I can only laugh at jokes I identify with politically. I prefer things to be placed in nice little box. Universal human experience? No, sir. Cater to me. Dance monkey. Well said, Troy. You're bringing all of the heat tonight. I enjoy this.
And yes, Dice, exactly. That's the problem. It's not old when they keep pushing the retirement age back.
It's true. That's the old retirement age. We're talking about neo-retirement now. So there was one other thing. I probably should have clipped it, but I think we kind of touched on it. But one of the things that Kat Black was saying was that she knew that the premises weren't based in a place of truth, that it wasn't, the premise isn't true, so the joke isn't funny. I'm assuming I kind of know your answer to it, but does a premise have to be true for a joke to be funny?
No.
I think that would get rid of a lot of silly humor,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean,
Sorry, please go right ahead.
We sat through a like try not to laugh thing, and it's just like this collection of TikTok bullshit. And apparently, if again paraphrasing, please don't quote me. Apparently, if you're like under 18, just things being loud is funny. Because like it's just like piquing the speaker, and it's just like what something screaming. Okay. Yeah,
Turns out Looney Tunes is not funny. Dice has a point.
There's no truth in Looney Tunes.
We were all wrong. Yeah. You can't actually paint like, the opening to a, tunnel on a rock. So yeah, that joke doesn't work at all, no matter which version of it. Just no, none of that works. Same thing with rocket skates. Like that just, it doesn't work.
Acme is a very reliable company too. Like that's, I'm surprised they haven't been sued yet.
So I don't know. Yeah. Acme is, their lawsuit waiting to happen.
Hell of a company.
I don't know. Like, so as a comedian, does it annoy you that a lot of non-comedians are coming up with like rules for comedy? Yes. Like, comedy is only fun if you're punching up, or if you're coming from a place of truth, or if the premise is true, or
who decides?
Etc.
What is the
That's a good point.
The hierarchy? Who gets to punch up and down? All right. So I'm basically poor. Whatever the technical term for that is, I forget. Poverty. I'm in the poverty bracket. So who do I get to punch up to?
Undermonetized.
Undermonetized. So all right, but I'm a white cis male, although I'm married to a LGBTQ woman. So like where do I? How many steps do I gain from my marriage? Because I know a member of the LGBTQ community, so I get to.
Yes, you've got a friend. So.
I've got a friend, a little bit more than a friend.
Yeah.
So, not favored by the YouTube gods. Fucking threw me off again, Dice.
She's awesome at that. Dice is awesome at throwing people off, and it's awesome.
Yeah, Dice is.
We're all better for having Dice here.
I didn't say I know one member of Dice.
No, I heard it. You said that you have one friend. I heard the meme. What can I say? Of course.
I forgot what I was.
True.
I was on a tangent about, but
sorry.
I know I did. Dice does it to me like every day on Twice.
Well, it's not Dice's fault. So you were mentioning that you are just I believe you were saying like straight white male or whatever, but you do happen to have a partner. Does that give you any credibility since you have one friend, right?
Wait, did I marry a little step down into the tier or up? Like where do I get to punch now? Now that like I've experienced society's way of treating members of the LGBTQ community firsthand. So like, do I get to now quote unquote punch up, even though like I'm an honorary member of the community?
Could be a stolen valor situation.
Sure.
I'm not sure.
White
I'm
knighting,
not
whatever.
the arbiter of this. Yeah. Yeah, I guess Kid is right. We do need some mathematic specialists to this.
Fucking hate that word. I hate that word.
Mathematics?
That starts with the W silent. Rhymes with me.
So
so the whole tiers, the punching up, punching down, that means that a homeless cis white male cannot make jokes about a black billionaire female that treats him like shit on a daily basis on their journey to whatever. If it's based
it would be in poor
truth.
taste. Well, I mean, all of his privilege. Yeah. And I think Ty Rivera brought that up in a really good way, kind of at the end of the original one that I had you kind of react to. He's right. And like, do you stay at some whatever tier or however we're doing this stack, if you will? I think Andrew was calling it the progressive stack. I think that is kind of, where you'd call it. I don't know. Like, are you forever in a particular tier, or I don't know. It seems interesting to me. I guess I don't quite fully understand it, but it seems to be just ways that you can kind of get an upper hand in, say, a conversation, sadly. And I don't know. I wish. I don't know. I guess I wish that didn't factor in so heavily in a lot of people's.
There's something that's
I guess priorities.
That's alarming. That first of all, I mean, the basis of what we're talking about is all these commentary, reaction, whatever channels, telling us what stand-up comedy is, and when a comedian is not funny with no real experience other than I go to comedy shows to watch people bomb. I have a good time when people bomb. Like what is that? I root against the art.
I was thinking that was a horrible, horrible statement, and then
Of course.
I thought, I really do like The Day the Laughter Died, and then it's like, I don't go to shows to watch people bomb, but that's a dude bombing hard, and I really like it. Like that's probably the Dice album I've listened to the most. Andrew Dice Clay's album I've listened to the most. Not our lovely Dice.
Yes. The scattered laughter on The Day the Laughter Died, I think, is what I get. There's one dude in, I think, The Day the Laughter Died 2, when he's just like reading.
I think I know the guy's laugh.
Reading
It's
his note.
very distinct.
Yes, you would know it if like you know it. You just know it because he's like so audible. That guy laughing at like Dice just driving straight into a brick wall is. I laugh at that. Like that's sometimes like what I was talking about before with my kind of segue bit. Like I'll get one of those every third or fourth time where it's like, all right, that helps, thank you, and now I get to refocus and go onto Identical Twins. So yeah, I the fascinating thing is what's really popular right now is like true crime, like podcasts and videos and stuff like that. And
For sure.
there was a statistic that when we are most paranoid, we lean on true crime and reality for like, I don't know, some bizarre purge. And apparently a lot of serial killers in America got their start from like true crime magazines and novels and things. And on the heels of World War II, a lot of, again, I'm just going on statistics. There was like 3,000 active multiple killers in the U.S. following World War II. And it had a lot to do with, like, apparently a fair amount of them were reading like true crime things. And like we have this parallel now because we have this paranoia, and paranoia was one of the symptoms of what they were reacting to, this constant state of what's going to happen next. I would say that the world is currently in a bit of paranoia with a lot of things. But another thing that came of that was before the Stanford prison experiment was the God damn it, I didn't know I would be talking about this today. There is an experiment before the Stanford prison experiment where they do this test, and I think it was 100 people, and they would hit a buzzer, and if the person got an answer wrong, you would have to electrocute them. And there's a certain point where like it's up
Awesome.
to a couple of 100 volts. It's an experiment. They're not really electrocuting anybody, but what this
They think they are.
yeah, at a certain point, people start to not want to do it. But the one interesting statistic about that was that at least 40% of the 100, which means 40 out of 100, laughed when they heard the person on the other side of the aisle in pain. And it was just this nervous laughter. And there's no explanation for it. But, 4 out of 10 humans think it's funny when somebody's in pain. And they're controlling that pain.
Excuse me. I get what you're saying.
I don't know where I went.
I don't know. Part of it could be, I don't know, nervous laughter or just the releasing of tension. Like, I don't know. They necessarily think it's like hilarious. Like, I'm sure there's a subset of them that do,
sure.
and those people are scary.
But on the surface, all you see is somebody laughing. You're like, oh, that's disgusting. I mean, if we're gonna if they were to do that video today, how many commentary reaction you see? Like, I like to watch experiments fail, and here's my
I'm not sure if you ethically could, just because you're giving somebody possibly psychological trauma of like making them inflict pain on somebody. Like, I don't know if ethically you could do that experiment. I don't know. At least it would be tough to get funding and like get that actually published. But yeah, there's a lot of those that I kind of wish they had done a little bit more research, or at least a little bit more into that. There's like that one, the Stanford Prison Experiment, and there's a couple of other ones that are kind of similar. Like, of course, there's like the Blue Eyes one or whatever. I know they made it into the movie, like The Wave or whatever, where they basically just kind of told people in the class, like, anyone with blue eyes. I can't remember if blue eyes was more important than other, but basically they created little groups of people that were much like the Stanford Prison Experiment, willing to mistreat the others because of some perceived thing that didn't matter 2 seconds before. It got weird, but it was a way to show people that they really could kind of go down that horrible path. I believe it was specifically in reference to, they got armbands and stuff, and there were certain indications of what the teacher was trying to do with this, but it was all just to show the kids that they are susceptible to this. I don't know if you could actually do that again today, but I don't know. They all kind of show that we're willing to do some weird things in groups, and we kind of stop thinking. But I don't know. I wonder if the laughter isn't more of like a release of tension, or I know I nervously laugh a lot.
Sure.
I wouldn't say that I'm enjoying myself or enjoying the situation, but it's you laugh or you cry sometimes.
Yeah, well, I guess what I was trying to say was we don't know why somebody's doing something. It's the intent, and like you said, nervous laughter. They could be just letting out some sort of energy that they're like really tense about it, and it's just like, oh, that for some reason that noise. Again, k and g. Go back and just watch stand up and hear how many random city names and whatever punchlines have k and g. There are certain sounds that we think are funny. It doesn't mean that. There you go. There's a.
I just said, like, it's comedic gold.
And it doesn't mean you're a masochist. It just. You cannot read somebody's intent just based on how you interpret it. If that comes across, I think.
Fair enough.
Like
it does make sense to me,
especially in comedy. Like, because you're offended or because you interpret something subjectively as I meant to say this. That. You're entitled to that. That's what you took from it. Great. But is that what I was going for? I'll be the judge of that. I mean, unless I'm some douchebag director who's like, it is whatever you want it to be. Then you don't have that as much in comedy as you do in like filmmaking. But unless the comedian says something like, well, it's yours to interpret, you know, I would check back with them to see what their intent was before, making content and, deciding that what comedy is, or better. Oh.
Well, I guess kind of along the lines, like you brought up offensive comedy. I think we kind of touched along it, but I don't think I asked you specifically. Is there any subject that's too offensive to be joked about? Or is there anything that we should consider too taboo to joke about? Or does it really depend more on the approach?
Gilbert Gottfried. I mean, I believe timing after, a touchy subject is probably, again, comedy is timing. So Gilbert
And he
Gottfried,
was prompt, man.
yeah, the week after September 11th, did a
And then again, right after, I can't remember what tsunami it was, but that's the one that got him fired from Affleck as well. He seemed to really be one of the first ones in with a joke. He definitely had a history of that, but yeah,
yeah,
that dude was pretty fearless.
and Gilbert Gottfried, when he did that in New York, I had a layover at a specific building, that apparently people were saying too soon, too soon. He pivoted into like a infamous joke that because he's such a world-class comedian, he took this. He's like, okay, and then he just took this infamous bit, the aristocrat, which there's a
Yeah.
documentary on. Watch it. You can watch it play out in front of your eyes, and he just goes, all right, I can't hit you with this one. I'll hit you here, and it just every bodily fluid and thing, just to, because it was a room full of comedians. They knew where he was going with it, but the journey that he took them on to bring them to this punchline, and the people who didn't know what the punchline was, to get to the punchline, the aristocrats, again, winning them over, just like it's a different section of the Bill Burr thing.
Yeah. And that, again, like that Bill Burr bit is just like amazing. But that whole documentary for the aristocrats, where you just see so many different comedians take on like the most offensive joke ever. I don't know. I think that's an amazing film. Like, do you think something like that could be made again today, or are we now in too touchy of a time that you just couldn't touch on a lot of those subjects? Some people definitely made it offensive, and I think they even brought like race up in it, but there's definitely multi-generations of,
Well,
offense that go on in that joke, regardless of who tells it.
I believe the inverse of that joke is told by a woman who, for those of you who don't know, it's a joke about, a talent office, a talent agent, and a family goes in and they just perform a bunch of horrible things and debauchery.
Most offensive acts
Yeah.
you can come
Yeah.
up with.
And
They need a name for this bit.
the punchline is the aristocrats, which is juxtaposition, and that's the punchline. What the inverse in this documentary, the woman talks about, I believe it's Judy Gold, I want to say, which apologies to Judy if
Judy Gold is awesome, man.
Mm-hmm.
I love me some Judy Gold.
I worked with her. Again, apologies. I don't want to misrepresent anybody though. So she presents the act as something just completely wholesome, but what do you call yourselves? It's N-word, C-word, and that's the inverse of that joke. And
Yeah, it is completely the inverse.
and it's if you know what you're expecting, it's funny. It's not like that person is trying to say anything racist or, against. Again, I'm in a place where the C word isn't really offensive, so it's kind of bizarre that words transcend offense.
Yeah. Fair enough. I mean, to each their own. There's some really offensive, it's kind of fun. Regional slang, I guess.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought that, calling somebody a goof or something would be offensive, but try saying that to a Canadian. They'll get really pissed off.
Oh, really?
Them's fighting words, man. Those, they don't want to be called that.
Yeah, apparently Fanny.
At least
here is
they didn't when I
very
used to
bad.
be up there. Well, I think I got like one last question for you, and it kind of follows along those same lines. Okay, so as an audience member, if you're offended or you don't like a joke, what should you do?
Leave. If it bothers you that much, leave.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see any issue with walking. Sometimes that's what a comedian is looking to do. Some people take it as like a point of pride, I guess, to walk a room. But
Yeah.
do you see?
Do you?
Does it end with walking, or do you see them as having a right to, like request a refund from the club, or does it end with
You can request all you
you
want.
can either
as long as
boo
they
or
give it.
leave? Fair enough.
I mean, I guess you can boo, but like you said earlier, it's a private establishment. If you start trying to speak and heckle, it's up to the club. It's up to the comedian. Some people like to play with their food, and all right, well, what was your problem? Case by case basis. It really depends. I mean,
Well, nuance is a good thing, man.
Hmm.
It's not a dirty word. I think there probably are some things that would definitely be over the line, but I don't know. I would like to think like they wouldn't really get mad at you if you're wooing. So
yeah,
it
I
seems
mean,
like booing might be okay as opposed to like, shouting them down or something, but it's like boo, like I don't know. Maybe you'll get kicked out for that, but
if you're
Yeah.
in any other type of theatrical performance where you're in the audience, first of all, if you're at a
Mhm.
music performance, you're not you're not going to beat the speakers in that place. First of all, I've seen people throw like bottles and shit on stage with music acts, and that's you ruin it for the
that
entire
definitely
audience.
seems over the line.
Yeah, right, exactly.
I don't think
Because they shut it down. They say,
I don't
"Oh,
think
we're
a
leaving."
physical response to a verbal cue is necessarily like the best thing,
Of
but
course. So
yeah.
in times where you're at
Oh,
a movie, what? You're right. In times where you're in a theater, if you're at a movie or you're at a play or some sort of something, a musical, um, if you're ruining other people's interpretation of that, they'll ask you to leave. And shit, sometimes it's not even down to being loud. It's vaping or handling somebody's member over their pants during a performance of Beetlejuice. Um, y- y- they can ask you to leave. If you don't enjoy yourself, you just leave. Why should it be any different when the stage act can hear you? Like, why is that different? Why does that open the door for the audience to play, show and tell? Sorry, Dice. People asking for money people asking for money back at a comedy show are like people asking for money back because they didn't like the movie they paid for. Suck it up and move on. Yeah, it depends on how. I mean, as a former theater employee, you have about, I think, 10 minutes to change your mind. 10 minutes into the movie, that is. And you normally can't get your money back In the theater, you can see something else.
Yeah. Thank you for vamping for a second. I was listening to you. I had it played and muted just so that I could make sure the stream was going on, and all of a sudden it just unmuted itself and would not mute. So thank you for covering that for a minute. I really had to mute myself. That's what I get for watching it on my other laptop that apparently is horrible. But yeah, I agree with you. I'm just wondering, so would you see any reason that they should then take it any further than that? Like, say you were really offended, would you then see going to like Twitter or anything, or even that, would that be too much?
I mean, it's
I
your
don't know.
right.
Like,
It's your
I
right
could see
to.
tweeting a band and being like, "You guys sucked last night." Like, I mean, it's not something that I would do, but it's like, I don't know. If you see them and like, they're not playing to their full potential, I don't think it would be above the line to, or over the line to basically say like, "Hey, you guys didn't do a hell of a show." But I don't know. It feels like a different thing if you then try and organize people to then come after the person.
Yeah.
I don't know. Am I out of line for that? Do you think going to Twitter and just saying like this sucked or whatever would be over the line, or would it be more when you try and
I mean,
take something away from the?
if you didn't ask for your money back, I mean, if you're a paying customer who's stating, you're doing your version of comedian Yelp, you're entitled to that, sure. But if the comedian said something offensive, I'm pretty sure that they're going to be ready. That's that. If you were that bothered by a performer that I don't know, like it would have to be like this kind of showcase thing where you went to a random comedy club on a Tuesday night, a Wednesday night, where there was 15 acts and one of them just really bothered you. Why you would leave for the entire rest of the night, I don't understand. But go have a drink or something while that comic is on stage, and then come back, or leave, whatever. If that comedian said something on stage as satire that is enough to make you offended, and you try to poke the bear, so to speak, I think they're going to be far more equipped to make you feel worse, I guess is the best way I can put it. Like, if you're going to bring something that is art, satire, and take it and say, I really wasn't feeling so-and-so's performance last night. And, you at them or whatever. And then that comedian can reply back or whatever. Like at that point, it's you're putting the ball in the court of the entertainer. Trying to get other people to hate on it. Yeah, it is kind of pathetic. I agree with Kitty here. It's you better explain why, and explain, show your work and tell me why you are more equipped to say that what I did and what my intent was is horrible. If you're going to do that, a comedian would never go out there. Like, again, a comedian would never judge somebody trying things out as a finished product, and they would never judge it as good or bad. The response is so predictably unpredictable. Again, it's not like any other experience where, if you go to a movie and it offends you, you just leave.
Yeah, like Kitty was talking about, she apparently walked out of Cabin Fever, which, come on, it's Eli Roth. Instead, you're going to Baz Luhrmann? Like, yeah, come on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can
Change of
get that.
pace right there.
Fair enough. I don't know. I'm just trying to think back. Like I've seen some bands that did like some horrible performances. Like I've seen NoFX a bunch of times. One of the times that I saw him, their singer Fat Mike was just like so drunk. They made it through like 2 songs and he like just kept falling over. It was pretty horrible. I could see tweeting them and being like, "Hey, that really sucked," but I didn't. This was pre-Twitter, or at least pre me being on Twitter. But I don't know. Like it feels like that would be okay. But if I was like trying to, like organize a mob to like get everyone a refund or something for that date, or to make them never be able to play the venue again, I don't know. That would feel like a bridge too far. So I guess I can see like being upset at the club and try to get a refund. And if that doesn't work, like tweeting at the comedian like, "Hey, you suck." But I don't know. Maybe I'm being weird again. This isn't like a polished set. This isn't what I was supposed to see with that band. That was supposed to be a polished set. They were the headliner. This is like a random comedy night, and this is just kind of some random person, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Well,
so I don't know. It feels different.
I don't know. Like, yeah, if you're in some random comedy club in Nebraska, it's your night out. I understand that. But like if you're going to Chicago, Austin, Los Angeles, New York, you paid end of transaction. Do you think Disney's giving refund because Space Mountain sucks? Sometimes.
Fair enough.
Sometimes they do.
Good point. Again, on fire tonight, Troy. That's awesome. I can definitely respect that. I'm trying to like put my head in like an unsatisfied
So
I don't know, audience member, I guess, is shoes.
there's I don't know how I feel about this. You, the musician, can probably answer this. The Corey Feldman craze that's come up of late.
Feldog? Yeah, dude. That guy is awesome.
Yes, Feldog.
He is the next greatest thing that we have to Michael Jackson, no longer with us. So now we got the Feldog. Yeah. Sorry, there's something new about him.
What do you make of his live performances and thus the quote unquote reaction to his recent shenanigans?
I almost went to see him live last year, or maybe it was like 2 years ago now. I really wish I had. There's a bunch of amazing like videos of him just like kind of failing, and his whole band just kind of, you can tell that he's not treating them well. He used to have the Angels. They're all gone now. Yeah. I don't know. I think you know what you're paying for there. You get that same like PowerPoint experience that everyone has gotten at every one of his shows. And then you're gonna get those songs that have a lot of I don't know what you'd call it. Like it has Michael Jackson energy, but not talent involved in it. I think you know what you're getting with that. But yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't see wanting a refund for that. Like you're at a legendary one. Like you can look at a whole bunch of them, like pretty much anything from his last tour. They're all being like reacted to online. Like there's almost every show he has to restart like 1 or 2 songs because like the timing is just all off on it. I don't know. I think it's kind of a funny phenomenon, but I think it's kind of created an air of mystery. Yeah, like people kind of know what they're getting for that, and they kind of want that. They kind of want to see that train wreck. So I don't know.
But on the flip side, you have things like, I remember this is like predating reactionary commentary, Twitter and or YouTube. Scott Weiland, the months, perhaps even years leading up to his demise, he really was performing and not doing well. And it was kind of highlighted and made a big deal of on the internet, only for him to suffer overdose sometime after that, while on tour supporting that same set. So like, where's the line with that? Because that is interesting.
Fair enough. Yeah, kind of the Amy Winehouse thing kind of comes up too, where it's like, she's thinking about not going to rehab. You kind of know what you're getting there, but
Lane Staley, perhaps
exactly.
my favorite
Yeah.
of all times, singing love songs to heroin, for Christ's sake.
I mean, as one does, yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure if like the audience has a responsibility or if it's just, there is this amazing talent, like just see it while it lasts.
Yeah. So what does the talent owe you at the end of the day? I mean, either it's not for you or like what the parasocial relationship. I don't
think it's the potential. Like you're going in there. So I mean, like for a horror movie, it's kind of to master your fears. Like that you're going to be scared. I think to comedy, it's going to take you to an uncomfortable situation, and there's going to be some sort of release of some kind. Hopefully, it's done well, but I think going in there, that they're going to take you to kind of this. I don't know what exactly you'd call it, like some sort of tension-filled headspace that then hopefully would get relieved. But I don't know. Kind of thinking about it with like the Corey Feldman thing, I think you're going to kind of see a train wreck. I think that's kind of what you pay for. I think there's certain comedians that you'd expect that from as well, but
so
I don't know. I guess it depends on the audience.
What does the entertainer owe to you once the performance is over?
I think the attempt of entertaining you. Hopefully they can make you laugh or they can entertain you with, the actual music, but a show of some kind, yeah. But I don't think they owe you like a certain level of entertainment, like they're going to attempt to do a show for you.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm kind of wondering.
I think like the effort.
Troy, your comments are awesome, man.
I don't know what parallel I wanted to make here. Shit, goddamn chat just always dismantling. I forgot what I was.
Well, I'm sorry that I keep kind of like squirreling and making us draw focus.
No.
I don't know. So what do you think the entertainer owes the audience? Do you think that they owe them more than just the attempt to bring a show? Or I think the attempt is the only thing that's owed, but maybe I'm wrong with that.
I mean, you can really break it down into ticket price. I mean, Taylor Swift charges what, thousands of dollars to go see her put on a whatever the hell. And people consider that money well spent. If you're getting what you feel you paid for, mission accomplished. I as a comedian, I don't know, other than those who have had, things going on personally, and again, you don't know what people are dealing with. I don't know of a comedian, again, other than like in the rare Andy Kaufman instance, where their goal is to not make you laugh. I believe, especially in stand-up, the comedian is trying to make you laugh. Like that is the target. Whether or not you're offended or you don't get the joke or whatever, we work on sound. It registers and it factors into future performances. Whether or not you enjoyed it, and how much further you want to take that's kind of up to you. But I would hope that people would be smart enough to realize that you're at a comedy venue, and it's kind of implicit that we shouldn't need to say, this is a comedy show, so here's a sentence that I think is funny, and let's see how you guys react to it. It should be baked in. And to go back, I don't know of a comedian that doesn't want to make people laugh. Like it's just so foreign to me.
I mean, you brought up Andy Kaufman, so I understand that like this is just shitting on a point for no reason, but apparently he did actually do quite a stage where he would open for. Now I'm forgetting which comedian it was, but he put on one of his personas, and his whole thing was to bomb right in front of this guy and just bomb as hard as he could.
That's kind
So
of terrible.
you're right. Like nobody does it without intending to do that. Like, hopefully nobody intends to do that unless they're doing some sort of bit. But you know, that dude is unlike anybody else, and he really would commit to the bit. But yeah, I don't know why. I just happened to hear somebody telling the story of that the other day, and that would be tough. I don't think I could do that. Like intend to just bomb as hard as you can in front of everybody. But hey, again, you know, Cat Black would have liked it.
Yeah. And again, if you're a good enough closer, you would look that much better, I would think. But I mean,
Yeah.
again, case by case basis, how many people are leaving based on the purposeful bombing? It's a really, really sliding scale. And again, if anything, it's the Dunning-Kruger effect, and we're kind of over on one side because of, again, what I would interpret as some sort of worldwide paranoia. And I don't know. It needs to kind of settle back, because I do think that, yes, people are a bit too sensitive, but at the same time, I think there are people that are pushing buttons too hard, and it's just like everybody's going further and further apart, and it's like, yeah, I know what your point is. Like, I know what your point is. Yes, they are being far too sensitive, but you're making it harder on everybody that's trying to toe the line here and entertain people. I don't know. It's fascinating. Again, 10 years ago, this wasn't an issue. Why did
Yeah, it does seem to be
2016
quite
change
recent.
things?
It broke a lot of people.
Mhm.
That is a good question. I don't know exactly what it was, and if it was just who it was, or if everything was just right. But yeah, it seems to have changed a lot. Um, hmm. Well, I guess we're like right at that 3-hour mark. Thank you. So I guess I'm glad that it ended up where we split the reaction to the other one and then this, because thank you for exploring a lot of these issues. That's definitely going to help me in a lot of my future content. Some of this may appear in the future again. But yeah, this really helps me out. And then it was really fun kind of actually getting to talk to you one-on-one to kind of you know, poke the comedian, if you will,
Yeah.
and make you kind of explain your thought process. So
Right. And
I really appreciate that, man.
thank you. Thank you. And thank you for having me. And again, it's based in the fact that I have experience. Like, I know what saying something that's over the line and finding out, "Oh, all right, you need to kind of work on that." I know all of that. And to just reduce a comedian I mean, you're talking about comedians reducing you to punching down and whatever, to not factor in what goes into their job is frustrating, because, like, you write a script and you do all this, whatever, I would hope, for the people that we were reacting to, and you like, do you not understand what writing art is? Because it's not it stand-up comedians are not, they're not up there just talking, being honest. It's satire. It's art. It's to make people laugh. This, again, the Avant Guard safe comedy shit, where the punchline is, "My wife is pregnant." If you think that's funny, great. Netflix has you covered. Go enjoy it. But do not say that Dave Chapelle is not funny. You don't have a proper sense of humor. And again, that term has gone lost on people. The term is the ability to sense if somebody is being humorous.
Yeah. Sadly, yeah, I think, you know, I don't think I can say it any better than you just did, but I don't know. Some people don't sense the humor unless it agrees with their ideology, if you will, and I think that's a really bad place to be in.
Yeah,
So I hope we change that.
if there has to be honesty, then there isn't a sense of humor. Like, you can play on honesty, but if you front load your whatever your thesis statement on it has to be based in truth, I'm like, what why are you expecting comedy from it? Why are you expecting that from truth? Like I don't go to Nietzsche for fucking chuckles. Like what are you doing?
Well, I mean, maybe you haven't read the good stuff, but fair enough. Yeah, like
Nietzsche's
I
a bad
agree,
example
and
too, by the way.
it really feels like people they're kind of shoving their own wants into this instead of just kind of letting it be its own thing. I don't know. I hope we can get over that soon.
Yeah,
because
I do too, because I'm going to find out the hard way if we are.
well, hopefully you're in a much better place. I don't see a lot of this coming from there, but I could be wrong. Maybe I'm just insulated and I just know American news. But yeah, I think the British people still like to laugh. I hope you're in a good spot for comedy.
Yeah, no, it's a good. I mean, if anything, London is probably a hotter spot for comedy, although not as financially advantageous. If you're a comedian, from what I understand, London is the place because they have comedy awards here, and they still like Red Nose Day. They just advertised. They still do,
which is awesome. Yeah, like they did that in Canada, and I thought we did that here, and I showed up to work with a red nose one day, and I was like, oh, okay, never mind, cloud nose in the pocket. Yeah, that's awesome that they actually do that. And Troy, man, that is a super awesome comment. Thank you. So they don't have to be unspoken. Just Charles brought it to my attention, just how the road that I was going down is not a good one. They're not Voldemort. We can talk about the initiative. I just don't want to focus on those guys. I would like to focus on something more positive for the future. But yeah, they're not those who cannot be named. But I agree. I am in a much happier place, and I think it's awesome talking to Charles. I think it's way more rewarding than what I was doing before, but that did lead me to, forge this bond with Charles. So that's kind of good. It led us to where we are now.
And like we brought up before we went live, it's about a year since I think I appeared on your radar. So yeah, it's, some things happen for a reason. And I think we need to start acting. I don't want to put us above anything else, but being able to disagree but respect one another needs to be restored. For some reason, like you cannot not be empathetic. Like it's really weird. If you disagree with somebody, it means you like hate that person, and like that. Where did that come from? Because I don't agree with that at all. Like I can disagree with your stance and still give you mine, and hopefully we reach some sort of common ground. We're humans.
I know I've got some wacky ideas. I don't expect people to agree with me on everything.
Right.
Yeah.
That would be obscene.
I gotta imagine I know I'm in the minority of liking the show Velma. That's just me. Everybody else says it's trash. I think Mindy Kaling blessed us all with this amazing show, but that's okay. Nobody else has to agree with me on that.
Mm-hmm.
I like a lot of weird bands and a lot of weird comedians. I would hate to think that everybody has to agree with everything that I agree with. Otherwise, they're not worthy enough of being around me. That would be really shitty.
Of course.
So yeah, I find it odd that certain people do that, but
especially with
I'm
art,
glad that
like the fact that it's like this is nothing serious. Like we're just talking about art. Relax. Things could be way worse.
Well, hell yeah, man. I really appreciate you being willing to go on stream in the middle of the night or middle of the morning for you on this. That's awesome, man. Do you have anything going on that you want to shout out or anything like that?
I don't know. I'm a little behind on everything. For again, I'm back to writing. I will be taking the stage here in the UK shortly. A friend of mine has offered to like properly record it, and I'm like, I don't know if I want that on my first gig back in years, but I don't know.
Oh, come on. You can start the documentary. It starts with this moment. This is your first step back on stage. Come on, it's to your rise. No, that'd be awesome, man. But
I mean, I'm not as
yeah,
strong
no
as
pressure.
Dice when it
I
comes
think
to bombing, but the day the laughter died.
and again, it's Andrew Dice Clay. You know, not to be
Yes.
confused with Andrew Clark or Dice.
Right.
You know, there's no good way to refer to that guy. But you know, the Dice Man. Well, hell yeah, man. I wish you nothing but luck. You know, break a few legs or whatever.
Yeah.
You know,
I
give him
mean,
hell.
it's what's funny
You got a
is
lot of balls, man. I've done a couple of open mics, but yeah, I learned quickly that it's not the same as when I was like on stage, like with a band or whatever. We'd break strings or break heads or whatever. So you know, you got to entertain the crowd for a couple minutes. I was okay at that, but you know, they're kind of there to see you. Like they give you a lot more leeway. They know you're not a comedian. When everyone's just looking at you and it's like, make me laugh. I don't know, man. That's a lot of pressure. I definitely screwed up the couple of open mics that I did. So yeah, man. I think you got balls, man.
Yeah. Cody doesn't help very much when it comes to editing. I find that I'm inspired by Cody Troy. But yeah, I think if I'm bombing hard enough, it'll be hard not to. Like I know in the back pocket, there's things that I can lean on based on
That's awesome.
the decades of material where I could just be like, all right, look, I need to laugh just to, you know, kind of calm myself down. Here's an old bit from 1999. So I don't
vintage.
know. Yeah.
That's awesome. Does any of your material still hold up, or is it just
the road
I don't know.
signs
I would have to think
does.
everything that I would have ever done was hack and dated. Like I'm trying to think of even how I would like entertain the crowds. Like none of that shit would work now.
Yeah. My road signs bit is still pretty on point. I think I'm repurposing it for
Nice.
for the UK actually. So that the porn awards I think is still quite
There's still a thing.
fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not quite, you know,
Yeah, people care.
not quite the Robert Schimmel bit on porn awards, but you know, adjacent to the Robert Schimmel porn awards bit. Perhaps
Well, that's an awesome
the twins
company to be in.
Yeah, please. I don't know. I'm just bringing people up because somebody associated me with Jay Moore because I did a Braille ATM bit, and I was just like, "Whoa, I didn't steal it, I swear." And then I watched his bit, and I'm like, "Well, his is way better. Why would I?" But yeah.
Well, hell yeah, man. Well, I really appreciate you, you know, coming on and being willing to answer the hard questions on comedy. That's really awesome, man. Thank you everybody for you know, tuning in on this. Yeah, you might see some of this material in a future video, but yeah, thanks for joining us everybody, and yeah, goodbye.